Insights into where the people of Dominica and the Caribbean came from, understanding our past, embracing our present, charting the way forward into our future. Together, eliminating poverty, embracing justice, peace, and togetherness. The Global View on Q, networking Dominica with the rest of the world. The experts are in the house from Dominica, Canada, the Caribbean, the United States, Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world. Engaging all Dominicans at home and abroad on our agriculture, our economy, our foreign relations, our justice system, our governance, our international competitiveness, our education, our world-class festivals and entertainment,
You're
sports,
logged in
politics,
2 places though.
regional cooperation, and much more. Globally positioning Dominica within the Caribbean. Join the conversation on the Global View on Q. Tune in, call us, have your say. The Global View on Q, only on Q95, the big station.
Good evening and welcome. Welcome to you in Radio Land at home and abroad on Facebook. We're live on Facebook already at YSQFM or at Q95 FM radio. That is where you can reach us and you can see us and share with us. So share the live and invite your friends to join the Q family. Get the latest breaking local, regional, and international news and happenings. We acknowledge you on the several other online streaming platforms as well. This is the Global View on Q. It's Tuesday, it's the 5th of October, and it's just a couple of minutes after 7 p.m. at Q95, the big station. It is, in fact, the 38th Tuesday of 2021. I'm your host, Sheridan Gregoire. Most people just call me Mr. G. You can do that as well. My distinguished guests tonight are Mr. Alex Bruno, Mr. Simeon Joseph, and former Prime Minister Edison Chenfield James. The topic is the life and times of first Dominica Prime Minister, the late Patrick Roland John. But here are a few questions. And I ask those questions because I know something of the late Prime Minister. Would Prime Minister Patrick Roland John have provided compensation and stimulus packages for individuals, healthcare providers, frontline workers, essential workers, small businesses, tourism stakeholders, farmers, transportation providers, among others, to help get rid of the COVID-19 related, this mental and psychological, physical, and economic stress that has been caused by this pandemic, and thereby help people, ordinary people, enhance and muster their strength and the will to face this invisible enemy head on with all hands on deck. And would Prime Minister Patrick Roland John have tried to put us all on a well-defined people-first path to post-COVID economic recovery with an opportunity to implement a paradigm shift towards sustainable development planning, international competitiveness, and the revitalization of the spirit of graciousness, of love, of peace, of prosperity, and unity for Kalinago and African Caribbean people? Would he have done that? Should a national edifice be named after Dominica's first Prime Minister, Patrick Roland John? And if so, what national edifice would be appropriate in his memory? You can call us and give us your ideas and suggestions a little bit later on in this show. We'd appreciate that. But as usual, we'll discuss the good, we'll discuss the bad, the ugly, and even the dangerous with our distinguished guests, former Prime Minister Edison Chenfield James, Mr. Alex Bruno, and Mr. Simeon Joseph, who will hopefully help us with their thoughts and recommendations for a better way forward for all Dominicans, maybe through the eyes of the late Patrick Roland John, if they can envisage that, with no anger, no malice, no personal attacks, no vilification, no divisiveness, as usual, what we do on this show, just trying to bring back civility, a caring society. So wherever you are in Dominica, in the region, and globally, please join this conversation right now. Tune into this space and get the answers to your questions on the Global View on Q. And have your say as you do every Tuesday with me, Mr. G, only on Q95, the big station. So as usual, we say a heartfelt thank you to our healthcare providers and frontline workers. I'm sure they are already exhausted. I know that they are already exhausted, but I expect they will keep working to help stem this tide, this rising tide in this escalating and expanding deadly coronavirus situation in Dominica. So I ask all of us to please follow the correct advice, the guidelines and protocols, play it safe and stay alive. I can tell you, I'm fully vaccinated, and I certainly would advise everyone who can take a vaccine to get vaccinated. I believe it helps protect lives, and it will help to keep the number of deaths down. We're up to 23 already. We were 6 weeks ago. Now we're 23. It's 23 people we're talking about who are brothers and sisters and uncles and nephews and wives and husbands. One death is too many. We don't want any more. So let's please do the right thing. So write down these numbers: 767-449-3095, 3096, 3097, or 767-616-4257. If you're overseas, you can call 305-432-9624. We'll take your calls a little later. Our engineer Sheridan Norris is keeping us on the air, and Lambi Charles is on the console at Q95, directing the traffic as usual, and he will direct your calls to us a bit later. But let's get started. And as we start, I wanted to introduce first former Prime Minister Edison James. It's not because he's the youngest among us, but just because he's the better looking among all of us. And I do feel that he has something to share. So Mr. James, I wanted to go to you first to tell us a little bit about you, because some of the young people, you've been out of office for quite a few years. They may not remember much about you. Some of them were very young, and they may want to know a little bit about the Edison Chenfield James that they've been hearing about. And after that, we make the rounds with Alex and Simeon, and then we'll come back and we're going to talk about the life and times of Patrick, Roland, John. So, Mr. James, let me go over to you now to get the ball rolling to get us started.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheridan, and let me say good evening to a fellow guest, Alex Powell, and Simeon, the man Joseph, very much in the news in recent times. Let me thank you for the outstanding presentation you made with respect to the eulogy which you delivered, and Lampi Charles from Marigat and Bay and Malata and all those places. I see greetings also to all those at home who've not seen me for a while. I see particularly to Dussel. She reached out to me through her daughter this morning and just want to confirm that I'm well and see you not too long from now. I want to also, Sheridan, extend condolences to Mrs. John and the children and grandchildren and family of the late Patrick Roland John. You say you came to me first, not because I'm the youngest. I suspect it's because I'm the oldest among all of us here. I'm proud to say that. And I'm happy to be among you tonight. You asked me to say something about myself. I am a little bit reluctant to do that because this activity tonight has to be about Patrick Roland John. It will, of course, I suspect somewhere along the line, group in some of us who were at one time or the other in the same kind of activity as he was. But I would so sincerely like it to be coming out of what Patrick John was, who he was, and the impact he's had on our lives, and the lessons we need to learn from his life. But yeah, I was born in Marigat. Very briefly went to school in town, having been in public service for a little while. Emigrated to England. Interestingly, I really got to my first encounter with Patrick John PG was at the Windsor Park, actually, when I would go in there, even as I was in River Street and later to Mayor Street, and to hear Patrick John really talk to the people about life, what was happening in the most jovial and informative way. And then went to England in '64, studied and came back, and worked in the public service for a little while. Then worked in the banana industry, worked with the CDB, and then had my own business. Then went into the political arena, and then back into my own business doing farming. The rest is history. So I look forward to participating in the discussion this evening. As I said, I see it as an exercise where we will take off from Patrick John PG and not stay in the history while we reflect on the history and we inform on the history, but use that history to catapult us into the contemporary times and to see how his life, his actions, his activities should inform and fashion and mold what we do, how it probably forces us to look at how we've been doing things, how we are doing things, and see what changes we have to make. In your promo, you indicated that you want us to talk about, or you wonder whether Patrick John would have given a stimulus or compensation in the light of COVID. And you also want us to talk about whether there should be a national edifice in honor of Patrick John, and to look at the good and the bad and the ugly. And you want our thoughts and recommendations. I will see in my limited way how I can respond to that charge that you have imposed upon us, and I hope I can do justice to it. But I'm sure if I fall and where I fall short, Simeon and Alex and yourself will prop me up. So that's by way of my opening comments. I look forward to joining the more elaborate conversation.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for that, Mr. James. Appreciate that. As your opening comments, you've sort of summarized what what I had in mind to talk about when in the promo that I did for the event tonight. I wanted to go over to Alex now, and Alex needs to tell us, I don't know how to call Alex these days. I don't know how to refer to him. I can say Simeon is my partner, and so on. I can say Mr. Edison James is my son's godfather. Alex Bruno is doing all kind of things. He's lecturing. I don't know if to call him professor. How do I call you, Alex? But anyway, he'll tell us a little bit about himself to see if I can still call him my partner.
Come on, Alex is fine. Your partner is always going to be the case. That is the same for Edison James, my dear friend, and Simeon Joseph, my compatriot and fellow Calibishian neighbor and distant relative, and also blood in terms of the politics, because his father and my grandfather were of the same political ilk. So we grew up understanding the philosophies of life in the same manner. Simeon, of course, spent more time in Roseau than I actually stayed back in Calibishi for a little longer until I decided to move down in 1987, 88. And as Mr. James said, the rest is history. Well, for me, yes, Mr. G, I am an instructor of politics and government at Palm Beach State in Florida. So that's what I do, in addition to pursuing further studies. So Alex is fine. I know Patrick. I knew him before I met him. And when I got to meet him, I never let him go. I spent over 20 years engaging with Patrick one-on-one as a professional and a friend eventually. So I think I can speak about Patrick with a level of independence, with no notes necessarily, because after 20 years of speaking to one man over and over again, I can almost tell you all there is to know to a certain extent about Patrick John. I take great honor in being here with the gentlemen tonight, and I promise the nation that whatever I present to the program would not be in any way, shape, or form to glorify Patrick beyond just saying the stuff that I knew or know about him, nor is it intended to erase whatever is written about him, but at least to add context to it. Because one of the things that Patrick really lamented over was that how can his story be told about him and he's not involved in that story? So people are just saying what they want about him, but he is there to say, and yet nobody would ask him to say. In fact, my experience with trying to speak about Patrick at DBS was that I was given instruction what Patrick should not say. As a national broadcaster, we had a memo that was given to us, and we have to sign the memo to agree to the terms of the interview. And I was told where Patrick should not go, what I should not ask him. So Patrick's story has been controlled throughout. And I think right now it's time to tell Patrick's story. So that's what I'm here to help to do, Mr. G, is to tell Patrick's story.
Yeah, Alex, well, this is what we're here to do tonight. I have a few things too that I can say about Patrick joining, but before I go over to Simeon, and I will say a few things tonight as the host. I'm not going to impose myself too much on the conversation, but I have a few things I want to say. But before I go over to Simeon, I think it's sort of family time, and I wanted to take the opportunity to reach out to Desiree. I know she's been through a lot. You know, Desiree is related to me, and is somebody who might maintain a relationship with. I wanted to reach out to her because you see how well she stood up, and that is why I remember always being standing up like a firm, solid woman. I always remember. Have you anybody ever saw Desiree John on a platform, on a political platform? Have you ever seen her? Simeon, Alex, you may have seen her. I have. I can tell you a few things about it. That's a solid woman. So behind every man like that, there is a solid woman, and she is certainly that solid woman. And we're looking forward to interacting with Desiree. So she'll have a lot to say as we go along. But Simeon, I wanted to come to you, and I hope all the kids are doing all right. You know, Nairi and everybody. I hope everybody's doing okay. Simeon, let me go over to you now. I mean, because your mic is off, so you might want to turn it on. Um, but you know, I think I want to go first of all. I want to congratulate you on what you did at that state funeral. And I hope you can give us one of your thoughts about the state funeral, because state funeral is a grand affair. It is something that's supposed to be grand. Sometimes the family may not get everything that they desire from the state funeral for whatever reason. It may not be possible. It may not be, but certainly everybody never gets everything that they want. But I hope you can tell us something about that before we really start talking about the life and times of Patrick John. And congratulations again on what you did there.
Okay, so thank you. First, I think you asked me to introduce myself. Good night to your listeners. Good night, Mr. G. Good night, Lambi.
Yep.
Good night, Mr. James. And Alex, well, our bond and our connection has been clearly established by yourself, you know. I think our navel strings are almost buried under close to the trees, because in Calibishi, the tradition was that when a child was born, the navel string was buried under a coconut tree.
Coconut
So
tree,
knowing
yes.
the proximity of Sam Adlen and Mr. Nibs and everybody and your mother, I'm sure our navel strings must be buried not too far from each other on the seashore of Calibishi. So good to see everybody here tonight. Let me begin by introducing myself. I have one of my mantras in life, and that is, great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. And I've always been someone who has had to keep that at the foremost of my mind, that if your spirit is to be great, if you are to surmount the cross things that are the vicissitudes that are going to be thrown at you every day, when you decide to go and break the necessary ceilings that there are, your spirit has to be great. But keep in mind that in doing that, you will always experience violent opposition from mediocre minds. I am never one to say too much about myself or my credentials, because I will tell somebody the greatest credential you can have is not a PhD, it's not a master's, it's not a BSc, it's not a BA, it's nothing of the sort, as so many people seek to aggrandize themselves with these credentials. So the greatest credential, like I like to say at the back of my name, is FTTB, and that is for the time being. So we are on this earth for the time being, and no matter who we are, it's only for the time being. And that's how I'm going to distinguish myself tonight. Just a pilgrim passing through on the face of this earth, and knowing that when I pass through on the face of this earth, I have to do my fair share to humanity, to mankind, to friends, to family, and to neighbors. Because at the end of the day, when your life is folded up, what it really matters is not the positions that you held, it's not the credentials that you held, but the footprints that you have left on the sands of time and on people's hearts and lives. And to say further in closing, before I move on to the funeral, that I do not know the key to success, okay? But I know the key to failure is in trying to please everybody. That's my introduction about myself, okay? So to sum it up, You ask about the funeral of Patrick John, and for me, I would say first and foremost, it was a very emotional moment. That is not to say that we have not been preparing for it for some time, because as close as I was to Patrick and Desiree and the family, one of the things that I am satisfied with is Desiree and I would be communicating with each other almost every morning and every evening, moving to the latter stages of Patrick's life. And I felt that I had to be there with her and the family as a means of support, because I'm not sure if we can fully grasp the experience of facing the ultimate reality of the closure of life on this earth. And so if you know someone who is confronted with that reality, the least you can do is to be there with them, you know, and I'm happy to know that I was there with them. And so the time came when Patrick had to close his eyes. I would tell the public, you know, Patrick received the last sacrament 4 times, okay? 4 times we had to call the priest to administer the last sacrament to Patrick. And I knew that when this last time came, it was going to be it, because the signs and symptoms were there that he was about to think. So he had time to make peace with his maker, to be prayed with numerous priests and pastors, and to reconcile himself with his maker, and to be prepared to meet his maker. And so when that time came, I was in solace. I was in solace for a number of reasons, because of what I just said, but also due to the fact that he had his family around him. His children who are alive and in Dominica had the opportunity to speak to their father and tell him bye-bye for the last time the night before he passed. Because Aisha, the last child, realizing that something was about to happen, decided out of the goodness of her heart and the need to reach out to family to say, okay, come and spend some time with your father. And these are the two serene moments of the passing of Patrick that I can recall. And to know that he died in peace, and he died knowing the satisfaction, knowing that he has the opportunity to tell his loved ones bye-bye. Having said so, the preparation for the funeral, I would say it was a challenging time. First and foremost, because one, Mrs. John was in the hospital, and she was there for an indefinite amount of time because of the extensive injury that she had suffered in her ankle, and the subsequent operation, and the need to be walking again, going through therapy, and recuperating at a home. And so that created a sort of a trepidation as to when will we be able to tell Patrick bye-bye. And then the children were getting a bit, you know, that, but then COVID came. That's another thing. And with the advent of COVID, we were faced again with the challenge of how do you tell such a great man bye-bye? The government had issued their regulations, and Mrs. John, nonetheless, had her request. And keeping in mind Patrick's wishes, it was, for me, it was the challenge of striking that balance, being that catalyst, in that anchor between the two, you could say, realities of dealing with the government, dealing with the wishes of the family, and keeping in mind Patrick's own requests and wishes and dialogues of how he would like to be remembered in terms of things. The preparation of the funeral was not difficult, because I was aware of Patrick's favorite psalms. I would have been aware of his favorite songs. I would have been aware of his favorite scripture passages. And I knew the man as he was. So knowing Patrick and being intimately involved with that personal side of his life, it was not difficult to plan the funeral. The difficult part, however, was, as I said, the reality, the health reality of COVID, as well as, you can say, the administrative impediments and the administrative stipulations to give Patrick a decent burial and state funeral. And so the time came when I was able to converge in our conversations with Desiree, and to decide on a date. And the date then decided was the 29th of September, that we would finally lay Patrick to rest. And so the process began, the preparations began, the planning began, and the execution of the things to ensure that he received a decent enough a funeral, lying in state as the case may be, memorial service as the case may be, dialoguing with the Anglican Church, his family, the government, and other persons responsible for the execution of that closing off and send up for Patrick. And then in hindsight, I would like to say that we have some regrets. We have some, what you call it, disappointments in maybe the way things were done, in terms of the playbook that was employed, in terms of the parameters that were set. So we have some disappointments there. And again, in hindsight, I would say that I felt that PJ still deserved more, but we accepted the fact that what we got was the best that we could get given the circumstances. And so he's been laid to rest, and we're happy to know that he is now in his final resting place.
Yes, and Simeon, thank you for those brief introductory words there. There's so much more that we'll expect you to be saying later.
Yeah.
But before I go to former Prime Minister Edison James, I thought I would take the opportunity to acknowledge all these folks who are on Facebook now, following and viewing what we're doing and making comments. I just want to say good night to every one of them. And let me just call a few names, and I'll just call a few as we go along, because quite a few old people have already logged in there and following what we're doing and viewing. The first name I had noticed was somebody called Not Nice Isidore. Not Nice Isidore. And then there is Lucille Roy, and then there is Marilyn Pascal. Marilyn Pascal is saying, good evening to this distinguished gentleman. We listen to keen interest this evening to Mr. James, Mr. Bruno, Mr. Simeon, Joseph and son, respect, Mr. G, and a special good evening to you and so on. Thank you, Marilyn Pascal, for that. There's Lucille Roy, there's Elaine Vidal, Dave Bertrand. Just want to, give you a shout out because you did take the time to be with us here tonight. So we feel that you're a part of the conversation. And there is also, let's see, we have your Didi Easter and Peter Xavier, and there is Merlin Xavier and the Minister David. He calls him the Minister David. Yeah, and so there are quite a few people here with us tonight, and I will call a few more names as we go along. These are some of the names of the people who are making comments, but most of the people, in fact, who are on, there are many more people, they're not really making comments, but these are some of the people who have made comments. And as more comments come, I will acknowledge the people who are with us here tonight, but I just want to say a shout out and thank you for joining us. Mr. James, of all of us who are on this panel here tonight, you're the only person here who has been a prime minister. You have sat in that chair. Patrick Roland John was a premier before he became prime minister. And then he became prime minister. So he was the first person who sat in the seat as a prime minister in Dominica. You have sat in that seat. You have had to take many decisions in challenging times. You have an idea what it's like, what the kind of what Patrick Roland John would have had to go through coming into an office like this at that time, having to take decisions to make people's lives better. And that he was called the little man with the big heart. And there was a reason why he was called the little man with the big heart, is because he really had a very big heart. And he was, in fact, a little man as well. Not a very tall at all. But when you put him on a platform and nobody more powerful than him. But here's the thing. I'll just give you a little hint as how I knew Patrick and I remembered him. And it seems as if he had a propensity to give. And you went to him and you wanted to give. I remember when we had the garment manufacturing cooperative, we had this thing, and in those days, Dominica was flooring, the productivity was up. I mean, there was a lot of production, a lot of productive activity, all sectors, and he encouraged it. We went to his man to get some assistance to do a trade show, and he gave us $50,000. He didn't make us come back and ask any questions. He said, look, you're doing this thing is because of that sector. We want that sector to expand. Go do it. So we got support from him with very, very little questions asked. And we went in and we had a magnificent trade show for 2 weeks. And many sectors were displayed right there. I mean, I remember all of it. You know, I remember Ophelia on the culture side. I believe that is where she made a debut. And I believe that is where Mark Murray, first of all, started looking at her more closely in the music field. And there was so much happening there. I mean, and all because of the contribution that this man made to us. He could not have done it to that extent without that contribution from his government at the time. Obviously, there were many other people in the government with him, and some good people in there as well. And I'm not going to talk about other things he did because I'll leave that to you all to talk about. But I just wanted to sort of put you in that position, in that seat, Mr. James, and just think about it. And I'm trying to see the kind of impact that all of the things he did, the foundations that he laid, the paths that he set. How did we get to where we are today? How do you compare what we are doing today? How do you think it impacted? Did we in fact sort of follow in that kind of same sort of vein and try to develop the productive sector? Do you see, what are you seeing as you look through those eyes, Mr. James?
Well, Sheridan, let me take off from where Simeon left off, because you asked him to talk about the funeral and he did a very good job. I think it's been generally acknowledged that the eulogy which he presented was a very high standard. I've heard attempts to take a dig at him. I think I heard that today, that we should not try to bury the past and to stay away from the negatives, and we should speak the truth rather than what have you. As I understand it, the eulogy is about talking positive about it. The eulogy normally happens in a situation where somebody is dead, can't present his case, can't defend himself, and it is really, by its very nature, designed to say good things about the person who has left us. At another time, the opportunity really to say other things. So I think Simeon did a good job. To talk about the funeral, one of the things that I noted was absent was, I thought, Simeon, and you help me out in this, that there would have been a military aspect to the exercise. I also thought that the current Prime Minister, leader of the Labour Party, Patrick General, leader of the Labour Party, would have said something at the funeral as part of the tribute, but I didn't see that. Sheridan, you asked me to put myself in this situation because I'm a former Prime Minister. Patrick was an extremely accomplished person. And as I said, what I say here will be rooted in what came out of in the eulogy. And as I said earlier, that I engaged and encountered and met Patrick Dunn very much at the Windsor Park as a young boy. Then I went to England. So in the early days of his involvement in government politics, I wasn't here. And I came back in 73. Mr. Leblanc was still premier, and Mr. John Weaver. But he clearly was an accomplished person, as you listen to what came out in the eulogy. And as we know, his prowess in sports, playing sports, in sports administration, in union organization, in teaching and teaching so many subjects, and not only teaching the subjects, but in being involved in the quote-unquote extracurricular activities at the school. So he was a very accomplished one. But then when you look at his involvement in governmental politics, Minister for Home Affairs, Minister for Education and Health, Minister for Agriculture, Minister for Communication and Works, Minister for Finance. That was the entire gambit. So by the time the gentleman assumed the position of leadership, Premier or Prime Minister, he had been an accomplished person in the business of managing the various ministerial portfolios, the ministerial subjects. So in that respect, me having coming in without those involvements in these other areas, although in the private sector, I was involved in the management of our biggest industry at the time, and working with a regional institution and running my own company. So I had that kind of experience outside the government. But clearly, Patrick came in with a whole lot of experience in governmental when he came in as Premier and Prime Minister. And from what I learned, and as I said, much of what I say will be grounded in what came out of Simeon's presented eulogy. And one of the things that I noted, and I'll quote, I took note of it, coming out of that eulogy, is when Simeon said, it is hoped that Patrick's death would spark new life into Dominica's electoral politics, and that people of virtue would rise up for this blessed land. And he did a little aside where he said that the people who are present and some who are hearing his voice should say a little penance. So Simeon threw that in there. And Patrick John, in terms of his who he was, what I understand him stood for, he wanted to, Patrick and Leblanc too, because Patrick was a protege of Leblanc. It is Leblanc who gave him the opportunity to perform in all these ministerial positions, as it were preparing him for the leadership that he eventually assumed. And from what I understand coming out of the eulogy, is that Patrick Patrick saw the mendicancy, and in which that obtained, or he wanted to move people out of that mendicant kind of situation and to move out from the second-class status that they were in, that all people were in, to one of self-reliance and productivity, to elevate the common man into a position of self-sustenance, to be able to live a dignified life, to provide for himself, and to have true independence while he, spread love and respect to his fellow men. These were noble aspirations and noble actions by that Patrick John was made of. And I think when we, and again, let me say that I said, and I insist on doing this, not only dealing with the historical situation, but taking that history and putting it into contemporary Dominica, and to see that Patrick John and what he stood for and what he sought to do. How is it interplaying with what we have now? That is what we have to do. Otherwise, this will be just an exercise in talk. So that is what I hope we can do. I think in the eulogy as well, Simeon mentioned that there are those who would want to tell us that all Patrick John was about was that he engineered a coup. He was involved in a conspiracy or he went to jail or something of this sort. We will look at that. I would want to look at it. And there is the question of a determination to make the point that Patrick John was removed constitutionally. I think we need to talk about that. I have some thoughts on that. And there is a byplay going on. We need to look at that. And so I believe that currently, and I think in the eulogy, Simeon says that there were some administrative moves which were heavy-handed. So while he was doing the eulogy, he did not leave out, although tangentially he did not leave out what might be regarded as some of the narratives. There was not the opportunity, that was not the place to elaborate on that, but he did not get there. And so as we go forward, I think we should look at what Patrick John did, look at what he might have done differently, and look at how it fits in to where we are now. Did the foundation laid by Patrick, the aspirations he had to take us out of mendicancy, to be self-sufficient, to have dignity, to have pride, to do things for yourself, to work hard. And so how have we given life to that at this point in our history? And remember, we are talking about a man who was the leader of the Labour Party and did all these things that we are saying he did in the name of the Labour Party. And now we have a Labour Party by name in office. Let us see to what extent this Labour Party administration is true in any way in recognizing and in keeping faith with what the aspirations and actions of Patrick John were. And we'll come to that, I suspect. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for that, Mr. Gibbs. So much comes out, right? And obviously, as you said, I mean, a eulogy, you cannot, and you only have so much time. You cannot deliver everything. But it's good that Simeon acknowledged that Patrick John was not a saint. I mean, we all know that. I mean, nobody gonna try to hide it, and none of us tonight is going to pretend that we think Patrick was a saint. I mean, his wife, Desiree, probably will be the first person to tell you that he wasn't. I mean, this is the way the lady is. She'll just tell you like it is. She'll tell you Patrick was no saint. But the fact of the matter is, we cannot lose sight of the fact that he's done quite a bit.
Yes.
And I think this is what I think we need to focus on at this time. Obviously, when people write history, they write from different perspectives. And obviously, some of the things that Simeon might see, or Mr. James might see, or Alex as well, I might see, somebody who's writing might disagree, and that's fine. It's okay to have a different perspective. Everybody has a perspective on life. What is important, of course, is the facts. And so, in terms of history, I think ultimately we want to get down to the facts. And I have no doubts that the young brains among us, Edison, like Alex, Bruno, and the young Simeon, Joseph, these guys will probably write a nice little history of the 70s and tell us all about what was going on there to help to inspire the young people to take us forward, because they ought to be guided. If we don't know what happened in the past, we're not going to know what we're going to do down the road in the
Yes.
future. Right?
You see, Sheridan, if I may say, you see, one of the sad realities of contemporary Dominican history is that those who have been postulating their version of history and projecting it on the quote unquote ignorant are not mindful of the fact that while they have been postulating their own peripetties of history, there are those who were born in the 60s, who grew up in the 70s, who endured the 80s and witnessed the 90s. So they mustn't speak from the assumption that everybody alive today was not alive in the time of E.O. Leblanc and Patrick John. George Orwell, the author of Animal Farm, he once stated that in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And I realized that very much over the past few days, where it almost has been like a revolution, because the truth of Patrick John has come out. The truth of the life of the man whom everybody tried to force fill it as that monster, that corrupt individual, that power-hungry individual. And they thought that for decades, they could just promote that idea of a man and hope that when he was put in the ground last week, that once and for all, that his history will be buried with him, and that also they would continue to perpetuate the history of the man that resistant to his life story overshadowing what would have been positive things about Dominica. And so there's some who want to muzzle us. And I would like to say that I am very disappointed, I would say, ghastly disappointed by the comments of some people on Facebook. Just today, I saw someone talking about lipstick. If you put a lipstick on a pig, it is still a lipstick. And I was very disappointed in that. Because those people would like us to believe that all we should talk about Patrick is that he went to pray. But my thing is this, you see, what puzzles me about that is, throughout the landscape of Dominica's political history, people have encouraged us to forgive the past. We've had to forgive the DUPP elements who created a society of prejudice. We've had to hopefully overlook the mistakes of Virginia Charles, that we should cast aside and ignore even the mistakes of this current government. But that when it came to Patrick John, we had to put it always at the forefront. His mistake should always have been that he should never have been forgiven. But the essence is we all make mistakes as human beings. There is no perfect leader. There is no perfect human being. And so why is it that we have to cast aside the good that Patrick John and only remember him for what people want? Patrick John, as I said in the eulogy, was more than his mistakes. Okay? And we need to let people know that the Patrick John we're speaking about is not just the Patrick John that people said he was. And one of the heartfelt reactions to the eulogy, Sheridan, I can tell you, and the panel and Dominicans is this. I have received thousands of WhatsApps, hundreds of calls from numerous persons across the world. I could tell you Australia, New Zealand, Holland, Austria, Paramaribo, Suriname, Paraguay, Mexico, the United States, the Caribbean, of Dominicans who have told me that they are happy to know that history of Patrick John, that they never knew he built the Deepwater Harbor. They never knew he started the Social Security. They never knew all those things. They never knew because that was suppressed in exchange for a narrative that people wanted to postulate. So that is my satisfaction. And I'm happy to know not that as I said, we don't want to canonize Patrick John, and you have said it rightly. And I said it in my eulogy. I said it in my eulogy. But one of the things that strikes me is this: in Dominica, we have the propensity to forgive who we want to forgive, to cover up the faults of those whose faults we want to cover up, and to remind people of their past, of those whom we want, and then we can cover up others. We must move away from that paradigm of sifting through the truth when it suits us, from that archaic worldview of thinking that if we don't like somebody, that everybody else must hate them too. And that is what Patrick Dunn suffered. There are those who felt that because they did not like Patrick Dunn, nobody should like him. That's archaic, okay? That is divisive. And that is undermining of a process where we value human beings for who they are, okay? The essence of humanity is that we are frail. That Patrick John, in spite of his frailty, was someone who, and his weakness, was still able to surmount many challenges and achieve many developmental needs for Dominicans. And that is at the heart of it. There are hundreds of people who are sending me voice notes and clippings of their gratitude to Patrick John. My only, how you call it, sorrowful thought of this: where were these people all those 40 years? Why are they only coming out now? Why is it that it's only now they want to speak of the good of Patrick? Because I sought in the eulogy to vindicate a man that everybody was trying to victimize. Most of the people have said, unfortunately, that it's because of fear. And that is a sad reality. Very sad reality, when we have to be afraid to speak the truth because of fear. And so I'm very sorry, I did not grow up. I may be a quiet person. I may be a reserved person. Persons may say a lot of things about me, nasty things about me as they care, but I have never been a fearful person. I have never been someone to allow myself to be influenced by the thoughts of others or by the perceptions of others about myself, because I know my truth. And we know the truth sets us free. And if we can reside on our truth and use our truth to highlight the truth of others in spite of their weaknesses, we need to reach that threshold in Dominica. Too often we associate with people because of how we want to feel about people, or we don't associate with people because we're afraid people see us. Let me tell you something. I remember once an influential person in Dominica telling me, what is this thing about Patrick John? Why don't you put Patrick John to rest? You know, it's as if I should abandon him, have nothing to do with him. But people don't know. How many of these people, as Alex was saying at the beginning, who sought to write about Patrick, ever sought to sit with Patrick and find out his truth, his story? So I'm glad that we've been able to demystify, okay, that paradigm that have been projected, and we must reflect on that. We must reflect on our attitude in Dominica to create a paradigm of persons and people and things out of prejudice, hate, malice, okay? And a deep desire to always be destroying each other. While people have their faults, we must always be willing to look at the good things of others, okay? So that humanity and Dominica can learn from and grow and develop into what we need to become. And that is the biggest problem of Dominica today, because we are ostracizing people. We are denying people their right to speak and to be and to obtain and to gain and to grow because of who they are. We have become a society of us and them. We hear the language, he's not one of us and she's not one of us, so they should not be included in the process of development. We see the umbrella of the prejudice bureaucracy within the government system, where the best and the brightest of the brains are suppressed because they do not belong to a particular color. This has to come to an end in this country. And that is why Dominica is not developed as it is. And the sad reality of so many Dominicans who have left this country out of frustration because they have not been given the opportunity to contribute to the developmental pie in whatever way that they can. And I end with the words of Patrick. Whatever you can do to develop your country in whatever field, give it your best shot.
Yes, and Simeon, very well said. Of course, the last thing you mentioned there was a question of many have left Dominica out of frustration, and that is key. And you also recognize that there's so many Dominicans in the diaspora everywhere, all over the world. They've left looking for greener pastures. I mean, I'm pretty sure if more effort had been made to plan out our country and economy, many of those persons probably might have been in Dominica. But you see that the prophet is never, glorified in his own land. And many of our people who are experts today, we don't even recognize them. But I have to reflect on something that you said. I will go to Alex in a moment. And after Alex, I will go over to Lambi for us to take a few calls from our listeners. One of the things you said, which struck me as well, Simeon, is that fear is a sad reality of today. People are afraid. What are they afraid of? I mean, you made the connection. In other words, what I think you were saying, Simeon, is that people like us are the bridge from the old, a bridge between the old and the new. In the 70s, this fear was not there. And that is why the story needs to be told so the young people will understand that they don't need to be fearful. And if you'll recall, there's a gentleman called Edison Chenfield James who came to office and he said, fear no more. He said, people were beginning to fear. He said, fear no more, do not fear. I mean, but you are making that connection, that bridge. People need to get out of this fear syndrome because it's not getting them anywhere. They're not getting results. Why are you fearing? What are you fearing? So, Alex, I wanted to go to you and look at it because one of the things I will want to do, Alex, as we go along, not tonight, as we go along in this show, The Global View, I want to do a lecture series with some historians. I want to look at, you see, Simeon mentioned the name of Frank Barron, the first chief minister. Then after him, we had this man, Leblanc. We're not saying much about Leblanc these days, but Leblanc was a great man. This man did a lot. He's the man who cultivated Patrick. Patrick came out of the Leblanc era. Leblanc did a lot for Dominicans, especially people in the rural areas, the farmers, farming community. He empowered them. He's the one who brought them and put them in charge of the politics and the voting in Dominica, and that is why the Labour Party got the majority. Before that, it was some other people like the DUPP, the much of the Roseau class, that was the dominant group. The business class, the retailers. But Alex, so I want to do this, and maybe I might ask you to be a part of it, of one or two of the sessions. But we have to go back and look at Frank Barron and what he accomplished, what the man he was. And then we can look at Edward Leblanc, the man he was, what he accomplished. Look at the whole family life of the man, what they accomplished, what they brought. Then we coming down, all the way down. After Leblanc, you had Patrick Roland John. And after that, you had Oliver J. Serafin for a short while, but he was there. I mean, there's things to be looked at and examined and analyzed about what happened in his era, where it came out of, and how did he get there? What did he do? After him, you see what happened after him? You got Mary Eugenia Charles, Mamo, the Iron Lady. Yeah, let's look at her era. Let's look at the lady, Mamo, the lady. And then let us look after that now, after that. You come in to Edison James and look at what happened in 4.5 years. Look at what he did in that time. It's important to look at those things so the young people will understand. Many of people who are now 30 years old, all they've known, the only government they've known is this one that is there now. Because, I mean, they were too young at 10 to really appreciate what was going on in politics and in governance. The fact of the matter is, after the Labour Party came in, you had 3 different people came in as well. You had Rosie Douglas, then you had Pierrot, and then we're not hearing much about Rosie. Rosie went to jail too. Rosie did what he had to do. He went to jail, but he's a Pan-Africanist and he was out there doing things. So we need to speak about all those things. And then we come after Pierrot, because Pierrot is a guy who had a colorful life too, very big community man. We need to look at him. And then there is the current Prime Minister. We have to also look at him and Mr. Skerritt. So we have to look at all that. And I think the historians know, and that is why I was very happy when I heard yourself, Alex, and Simeon talking about we have to write the history of the 70s.
Yes.
Get the facts and get it straight and empower our people to also make them understand. The 70s was a very colorful. I was at you in St. Augustine in the early 70s. I can tell you about revolution. I can tell you about what was going on, the question of fear or lack of it. All right. So it is important for us to take another look at this. Alex, I want to go over to you because I know before I go over to Lambi for us to take some calls, I just want to prepare Lambi that we will take a few calls in a minute. And Lambi, when we go to you, we'll give the people the numbers, make sure we can hear them, and we'll take a few calls from our listeners. In the meanwhile, our viewership on Facebook has grown by about 3 or 4 times. It is just it keeps building up. I don't think they're here because of me. I think they're here because of Alex, Bruno, and Simeon.
PJ.
These are
Because
the
of
young people. Yeah.
because of
Alex, let me go over to you.
all right. So what did you want me to particularly comment on?
You see, Alex, you see, the thing is that there is this thing that I look at as a bridge. You know, I heard you and Simeon talking about way back since our grandfather and grandfather, this and that and so on. There's this bridge, and we know, Alex, people like us, we know something what happened in the 70s, what happened in the 80s, what happened in the 90s, what's going on now. We can
Yes.
see a progression. We have seen leadership change. We have seen styles change. So we've seen all of that. I want you to take a look at all of that. And we're looking at the man Patrick John, who had a major role played in that era because he brought the country to independence. But I mean, there's a lot of things were happening which made Patrick John who he was too, right?
Yeah. Well, we don't have enough time tonight
I know that.
to speak
No.
about all this. So I'm going to keep it very succinct in a couple of minutes, maybe 2, 3 minutes to kind of galvanize, envelop the idea that you asked me to develop. There was one time I said on radio that Patrick John was the single most popular politician in Dominica, and I was taken to task because some people, for some reason or the other, told me that I was speaking gibberish. And I couldn't have been, because when I understood Patrick's life, Patrick came into politics at 28 through the city town council. And Patrick had already played for Dominica as a sportsman in different sporting disciplines for over a
17
decade. He
I
also
believe,
played for the regional team.
I believe, Alex, he was probably the youngest mayor that the
Of
whole
Rosen.
city has ever seen. I think he
Exactly.
was the youngest mayor. Yeah.
Exactly. He had already formed the One President Allied Workers Union. And when Patrick told me a story about something that happened to him, Patrick said, he would have run for Baron.
Yeah.
That's who he
Yeah.
would have run for.
Yeah.
But Libla got to him first, and he gave Libla his word. So when Baron came to him, he said, Baron, well, I just told Mr. Libla yesterday I'll do it for him. So really, I'm a man of my word and honor. I cannot. But honestly, I would have run for you. Because Baron was not a guy who was all out. Baron had some fundamental belief in the freedom of people's expression and their values. So PJ would have been a Baron man had it not been for Libla's advance to Baron. You mentioned Libla a while ago, and then you spoke about the ministries that PJ held. Libla was very clever. Libla was preparing PJ for the life in leadership, Mr. James.
Yes.
That's why he gave him so many different ministries. So at the time, when the time came, PJ could not have been opposed or successfully. That's why, again, Simeon can tell you later on, Amo did not step up because the intention was for the Guabug, the elites in the Labour Party, was to let the big names run the party, take over the party. After they chastised Libla, caused him to retire to vacants, the plan was not for PJ, because the bourgeois, the elites in the Labour Party, and the bourgeois in terms of the Dominican society came together. And that same ruling class, I must say, continues to rule Dominica, save the 4.5 years of the UWP. The same class have been ruling Dominica, if you observe what we are speaking about. So I made the point that Patrick was the most popular, powerful, single politician on Ireland. throughout all, including Mr. James, with all respects to him, because Patrick had a sort of bolt of charisma. He was spectacularly powerful and popular in many different disciplines, and he was totally captivating. He had people spellbound until the people were spun over against him, and then those same people that he expected to stand with him did not stand with him. Because what happened? The system collapsed his support because of the 70s. These were some interesting times. Simeon corrected me on an interview we did earlier in terms of the exchange rate that was pegged, Dominic, the EC dollars pegged against the US dollar somewhere in 1971 or 2. And on the conversion of the currency used for Patrick's travel expenses, it was not properly converted, and Patrick was arrested and almost sent to jail for the conversion discrepancy in terms of his advances of some $40-something. That was Patrick's
$47.
$47. That was the only thing that come close to corruption, and it wasn't Patrick's doing. It was only conversion, because that Bretton Woods agreement was in place, and then I think they had that just around that time in the 70s when the money was pegged against the US dollar. The 70s were a very revolutionary time. Sparrow sang, Patrick John is a wanted man. Idi Amin, Ali Bhutto, the Shah of Iran. So Patrick was placed in a group of very questionable characters globally. And the elites, the system, the status quo used that against Patrick to dismantle Patrick's power. And the people sadly went against Patrick and took Patrick out. And we can speak about the illegitimate and unconstitutional transfer of power from Patrick to OJ. That was not right under the Constitution, and Patrick spoke about it. I have the live speech where he said, ask them, if you want to install a new government, at least let those who support me as leader of the opposition. They didn't want that. So the power was transferred from Patrick to OJ and then to everybody else illegally. And no one spoke about it. So we have seen these things, and Simeon said something which is very true. Simeon said Patrick did not want to rock the boat. Patrick didn't want us to talk about him. Save way. Patrick, many times he said, no, Alex, the time will come, and he had a little smirk on his face. Patrick knew after his death that things will escalate. So now it's not my fault if people are thinking that we're glorifying Patrick. Simeon didn't do anything to glorify Patrick. In fact, Simeon took out the essence of Patrick. He just gave the basic things. Wait until Patrick's book come out and you will see the essence of Patrick drawn. But Simeon touched just a few little areas here, there, and everywhere. Patrick was not an easy man, and nobody's glorifying Patrick. So I mean, I can go on Sheridan forever, but this program is limited to some extent, so I will control myself by not saying so much, because there are a number of us here, and of course I want to hear Simeon, I want to hear Mr. James, I want to hear
Right.
Yes,
But you see, Sheridan, I want to say a few things, and one of the key words you use there is bridge, and Alex used it too, right? Now, when you look at Patrick John, Patrick was in fact a bridge. Patrick was in fact a bridge, and a bridge for many things, a bridge for young people, a bridge for the working class, a bridge for the poor man, a bridge in politics, okay? Now, why is there such a bridge? You know, Stephen Covey, one of the motivational writers, is known to say leadership is communicating to people their worth and potential so clearly that they come to see it in themselves. That's what Patrick was about. His leadership wasn't about dominating. His leadership wasn't about making people know that he's a king or some sort of supreme being with ultimate power. He saw his leadership simply and throughout his life as communicating to people their worth and potential. And let us look at it. Let us look at it. Look at Patrick's life. Let us begin with Patrick's life. Patrick became mayor of Roseau and not mayor of Roseau, began the trade union movement sometime around the age of 24. Let me ask you a question. What are the 24-year-olds today doing? Drinking rum, smoking marijuana, sucking up to politicians, going and one CWO. Look at what a 24-year-old man did. He at 24 years. He could work in an institution and challenge the status quo. How many 24-year-olds today who work in institutions like the very same wee church that PJ was in, or one of the major mercantile, challenge their managers and the directors today? PJ did that as a 24-year-old little 24-year-old boy from Kennedy Avenue on New Street with no big name, with no lawyers behind him at 24 years. And let us look at that. Let us look at the essence of the man to find out the fiber that he was made with and the content of his character. That at 24 years, a young man, just burgeoning out, he could have said, okay, I am afraid of politics, as the young people say nowadays. I'm not interested in politics. I don't want to challenge the status quo. Boy, if I challenge the status quo, I'll lose my job. Or I have to suck up to my boss. Or I have to pay American Social Security, kiss, you know, just to be somewhere because I want to guarantee security. No, he challenged the status quo and he could speak on the behalf of his fellow co-workers to reach where he wanted to reach today. Because, you know, there's a saying that goes, and I love me to quote another saying again, you know, that says, when a society is absorbed with drunkenness and CO, that is a sign that the society is dead within itself. And so Patrick was able to generate with all those whom he worked with the need to recognize that life is not only about CO and Bota. Life is about challenging the status quo, working on behalf of those whom you are in contact with, and to lift a fellow man and common men to another level as to where they are, where they were now. So that was the bridge Patrick has. It was a bridge in many areas and in significant areas of life. He was a bridge in politics. Was a bridge in politics. And when you read up on many of Patrick's articles and you read up on writings of Iwo Bland, you read up, or you will have, as I have had the opportunity to speak to people like Earl Leslie. I, as a young man, had the opportunity to speak to Earl Leslie, the former parliamentary representative from the Portsmouth constituency in the 1970s in the age, and speak to these people and to be able, and Osborne Theodore and Romanus Banis and all these people, and even Mr. Leblanc, when it was presented for years that Mr. Leblanc didn't want Patrick, I had the opportunity with my father, Sylvester Joseph, to go to Mr. Leblanc on Sunday and to ask him that honest question. That is why I could solidly say it in my eulogy that Leblanc never wanted Mr. Amo. So he was that bridge for the common man. He was that bridge in politics, and he created a new politic in Dominica, a politic in Dominica that was able to allow the masses to identify with the leaders. Because before Patrick, leadership was up there and the masses was down there. And I'm not sure if you, maybe Mr. James or you, Sheridan, you might be, you remember Patrick was criticized for jumping in Carnival Band. You remember that? Patrick was criticized.
I remember a lot of things.
Patrick was criticized for, as prime minister, for going around town and sitting down in domino shops and rum shops and going to the market on a Saturday morning and walking around town. Patrick was criticized for going to the Windsor Park as premier and prime minister and mixing up with people. Patrick was criticized for going to Newtown as I'm up here and that you are down there. And Patrick, again, was a bridge because he was an epitome of reconciliation. He never hold grudges. Okay, many times, and I'm sure people like Afi Mate, even Charles Savre himself, even Eugenia Charles himself will tell you that there are many times when they oppose Patrick, and Patrick never cast them aside. He invited them to have a conversation with him. That even if they were his opponents, he didn't see them as his enemies. He invited them into his space to talk with him and to chat with them. So that even made him a bigger bridge builder. That he didn't see his opponents as enemies. That he didn't see people who vilified him and attack him as persons to hate. As a matter of fact, Patrick could not hate. I cannot say Patrick could, because even when Patrick spoke of his enemies, he spoke of them charitably. And in the latter years of his life, Sheridan, I will say tonight, I was able to witness Patrick receive into his space many of the people who attacked him in the 70s and welcomed them into his space. And there's a particular person whom I put on the death announcement. And I was walking the road one day and a few people met me and said, but why did you have this man in the death announcement? I said, you don't know. I know that this person became very close to Patrick. And they had developed towards the end a very good relationship. And that person had been able to go and pray with Patrick. And after Hurricane David was able to bring parcels of good stuff for Patrick. Okay, and anytime Patrick was open to always, so that is in essence, and this is the lessons we have to learn from, especially that lesson of forgiveness, of tolerance, of reaching out to your enemies, of not thinking that people who oppose you or who do not support you are your enemies, or that you have to seek to destroy them and sideline them.
No, Simeon, thanks for that. But no, when I use the word bridge, right, I did not use it lightly, you know. I use it in a very fundamental way. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you talk about Leblanc, you talk about Patrick, but the thing is that I played dominoes, and you talk about Patrick John playing dominoes. I played dominoes at Leblanc's house. And today, his son here at Leblanc is one of my best friends. That way back, Norris proved and myself used to go down and play dominoes with Leblanc at his house. And his wife was very gracious and very, very nice lady. Treated her very, very good at the house. But we played. So you see that bridge thing there, Leblanc passed that on to Patrick John, but Patrick John's own upbringing facilitated him accepting that and embracing that, because that's what his upbringing. That's where he came from, right? And you talk about that bridge with the working class people. I mean, everything he did. I mean, I could tell you. Alex, just before I go to Lambi, you know, Alex, you mentioned about, like, was it you mentioned about the currency and pegging the currency? I
Yes.
was, you know, I was on the board of governors of the East Caribbean Currency Authority before it became the ECCB. There's a man called Jacobs who was a governor. Some people might remember for a few years they saw my signature on that dollar, on the paper, on the bills.
Mm.
I replaced Jenna Amor on the East Caribbean Currency Authority. It later became the ECCB in Central Bank under Dwight Venner.
Yes.
All right. But that just tells you the kind of people you were dealing with in that era. Talking about bridge. I mean, you see, you went from Jenna Amor being on that to Sheridan Gregoire, the guy
Yeah.
from Miami, right?
Yeah.
You see, when Simeon talked about this communication with the working class, I think Simeon was looking at things like that because, I mean, let's face it, when a man can tell, you see, I know we'll go into those things, but I don't want to keep Lambi waiting too long because our callers are standing by to make their calls. I want them to have their say, to be a part of the conversation. I remember Patrick John and other leaders too, Edison, James and other people, they got houses built for people. I remember by the public house garage around there, my family were involved in a Kudme thing, where all these houses by the public house garage there, you know, Shillingford Crescent and so on, they were built by Kudme, you know. It's Kudme. Hubert Joseph was the guy, the government had the materials and the families came and nobody knew which house, but they provided the labor and then we eventually put our name in our hand in a hat and we pull out a number and we got that house. But the point is, although you did Kudme, you had to pay for your house.
Yes.
The price was reasonable, but you had to pay, but you got your title. So you got your title and you had peace, but you worked hard for your house. You see what it did, that spirit, you have to work for what you get, you have to earn it. So the family had to work diligently, not knowing which house you go to. You had to put the same thing in every single house. You don't know which one you're going to get.
Yeah.
So you see, this is the point I'm making about this whole thing. And I think it is important for the young people to understand this thing about this bridge. One of those days, they're going to be that bridge to talk to generations in the future. And they really cannot be telling people in the future, man, I was too afraid to say anything. What about all this fear? I mean, if Patrick John had a lot of fear, he would never have been prime minister. Ronald Lama would have been the leader ahead of him. That's what, if he had the fear. But he didn't have the fear. The delegates were with him, so he went ahead. But Ronald Lama, in fact, was a deputy premier at the time, I think. He was deputy premier at one
He had
time.
resigned. He had
Yeah,
resigned.
he had resigned, right? But
He
the
had
thing is
resigned.
that, yes, as you said, I mean, the little man, I mean, became the successor of Leblanc, right? So it is very important for us to remember all of those things when we're talking about that. And then people like Edison, Chenfield, James, they took the mantle and he came and said, listen, you know, this thing was, the fear had gone, but it came back. Let us get
But
that fear again.
that is important, you know, the point you're
Very
Very,
making,
important.
because the
very.
UWP under Mr. James would encapsulate the spirit of labor. the spirit of unity, the spirit of progress, and
the philosophy.
And the philosophy, the fundamental philosophy of the upliftment of the ordinary man. And I can venture beyond that to say that's one of the reasons I think the party was so vehemently opposed and consequently lasted shy of a term in office. It's not necessarily because of corruption, because at the end of the day, Mike Rosie said that was just a joke. And there was a big investigation after that by a hatchet man, and nothing was found. So there was nothing about corruption. It was the same idea, the same mentality that was sown again. So the same ugly hand of the social elite came back again to replace a party which stood up for people. And that was a problem. And that is one of the diagnoses, as someone who's looking back at the politics, of the things I can say happened. No, people may have other versions. But as someone who believes in research, and that's one, again, Patrick, I see Mr. James is going to come in a while. One of the things Patrick said is that the people who say that they do not know the story are people who choose not to know, because Mr. Honeychurch was not there when history happened in England and everywhere else, and he can tell us about it, and we should believe what he says because he did his work. So why do you have to say I was not there in 79, so I do not know? And why do people who speak about Patrick must say that, oh, they were there, they matched, they were in the bush, and what the history said is true? You being there does not make the history true, or what is written about the time true. Because there are those of us who have researched. 20 years on a project in terms of doing research is not joke, you know, Mr. Joseph, Mr. Gregoire, and Mr. James, and Mr. Charles. 20 dedicated researching a topic is not a joke. So we have to get it real.
Yes. Mr. James?
Yeah, I was going to make the point. I think we were on the question of the bridge and all this sort of thing. As I said earlier, essentially my position is to let this thing be around Patrick John. That's who we are talking about, but bring it into contemporary times. One of the things that we did, and again, is with some reluctance, you know, because I've been trying to keep away from the United Workers' Party and me in this thing, but is to embrace Patrick John when we came into office. We have a Labour Party that Patrick John was the leader of in the 70s, 74 to 79. And we have a Labour Party now that Mr. Sheridan is in charge of. When we came into office, as I said, we sought to embrace Patrick John. Some people said we rehabilitated him. I wouldn't use that expression. But I think the eulogy refers or mentions that Patrick John was under his administration that the Solid Waste Corporation was founded. Yes, I think the eulogy said that, Simeon. Yeah.
Begun, inception.
Yeah. We made Patrick John deputy manager of the Solid Waste Corporation while we were in office. I can tell you that when we were planning to do that, I, as Prime Minister, had to resist the objections of a public servant. I had to ask, well, which law, which regulation, which rule is being breached to give him that position? So he got that position. Not long after we left office, that position was taken away from him. Yeah.
Shame.
We made sure that we invited Patrick John to the independence celebrations all the time during the time we were there. I remember, I think it was in the 1997 independence address, when I particularly remember making the point that we had recognized all those people who had led the country up to that time, and they had been invited, and they were here today. The only one who wasn't there on that day was, I think it was Charles. We had invited Mr. Leblanc. I wasn't able to come for some reason. But I wanted to go back, because I know, Sheridan, you said you were going to allow the public to get involved, but I wanted to go back to something that we mentioned, but to this question. I think Alex mentioned it. this question that is a vexed question about Patrick John having overthrown or being involved in a conspiracy to overthrow the government. And Patrick John himself was saying that his government was overthrown. And we are talking about history and writing the history. I think it's important for the people of this country to have a detailed examination of that scenario and that narrative. It's important. I hear us talking about writing history. I heard Simeon say in some program suggesting, I think just today, that Lennox Honeychurch history, he didn't use the words I'm going to use, but probably needs to be examined closely because he was a member of the Freedom Party. He was third nominated member, Simeon, in the parliament by the Freedom Party, and he was a close friend of Eugenia Jarrett. So that meant, in Simeon's mind, that we should be a bit careful and circumspect about what the history that we have from Honeychurch. At the same time, he mentioned that we should look at the book by Christian, Gate Crashing into the Unknown, Christian being a former minister in the Labour Party government. So there's an issue there. Okay. I believe, though, that it is important, and I think I heard somebody suggest that there's talk about the Patrick John Foundation. Did I hear that somewhere?
Yes, yes.
I believe an important, and I probably will be anticipating a little bit what we are asked to do, to make recommendations. I believe that is important for what are the jobs I would give the foundation, is to prepare a program and embark upon an education program around the country to bring that history of 74 or before that, that history that we're talking about, bring that live and direct to the people, talk to them, explain to them, let them ask questions. One of the things that we're very short of in Dominica is discussion, dialogue, where I with one view on an issue, you with a view on an issue, a different view on an issue. We do not come together and sit down in the same space and discuss. And you make a point, I make a point, I clarify, you clarify, and a message is given. If we leave it to a historian who is biased to write a story of a history of the given period, and we leave it to another historian who is biased on the other side, we are likely to run into some difficulty. On this question of overthrowing the government and conspiracy and coup, there is a profound effort to make the point by those who would make that point that PJ was removed constitutionally. I heard a clipping of a news item just recently, a news item about the time when all this controversy was going on. And I noted that it was said that when the House met on the occasion after the upheaval, Miss Charles was supposed to, the plan was Miss Charles would have moved a motion of no confidence in the Prime Minister. But that morning, the motion was not moved. And Miss Charles asked the ministers to indicate where their allegiance was.
The allegiance.
I am saying that, yes, I am saying that to the extent that that is so, Patrick John was removed from office unconstitutional. To the extent that that is so, I'm making the bold statement in my interpretation and understanding. He was removed from office unconstitutionally because the Constitution provides that the only way a prime minister can be removed from office is on the basis of a motion of no confidence, which, if passed, he must within 3 days either resign or advise the president to dissolve the House. If he doesn't do that, the president removes him. So in the absence of those things, of a motion of no confidence starting that process, it is my view that he was removed unconstitutional. Then there's the question of whether, let me finish, Simeon. You're on a long run. Let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
On the question of whether Patrick John was involved in overthrowing the government, I took the opportunity to read the Privy Council decision on that matter. Because remember, the matter reached the Privy Council. It started at the High Court. Hewlett upheld a no confidence motion. There was an amendment to the relevant legislation. to allow for the state to appeal on
Right.
the basis of what they call a case stated.
Right.
That was done. It went to the Privy Council.
Yep.
The Privy Council is our highest court. But one of the things the Privy Council said is that a case stated, as they understood it in England, in the English court system, had to be on the basis of an agreement among the parties. That is, the accused or the accused, the accuser, and the judge, to agree on what is this legal position. And then that goes to the Privy Council, the adjudicators. That was not done. And I'm saying, in a situation where a man's life is at stake, it's my view that there should be no space for any doubt. Okay, but could Patrick John, and I've already said, based on what I understand it, it's my view that he was removed unconstitutionally. Could Patrick John have said, to the extent that it has been suggested that he was involved in overthrowing the government, he attempted to overthrow the government, but can he say that his government was in fact overthrown? Because there's no question about it that the ministers were stoned out of office. Is there any doubt about that?
No.
The stones rained. Mr. Anthony Astafan, in the presence of Charles Savre on a TBS radio program, said that the regime, Mr. John's regime, was removed by a what? A constitutional what? Cold wash brigade. It is my view that if you force somebody to resign with the use of stoning, then you cannot say that that person, resigned.
No.
He resigned under duress.
Right.
And there's the case of the Jamaat al-Muslimin in Trinidad, which tells you about somebody doing something under duress. How the case played out is another matter, but that was a major issue. So Patrick John, probably when he says that my government was removed unconstitutionally and under pressure by stones, he probably has a point. So these things need to be put to the public in our attempt to get the history right.
Yeah.
These things need to be put to the public, and let us discuss them. Let us discuss them not by one side having all the access. For instance, the other side, quote unquote, doesn't have an opportunity on our radio station to articulate their views on these issues. So I've been saying that it is not just a question of talking about Patrick John in historical terms. We need to bring that lesson, that involvement, that man, his story. We need to bring it into contemporary times. So that is what I would want to say on that at this point in time. A Patrick John Foundation, which will have as one of its missions to go out there and to educate the people in a dialogue situation, not just sit in the studio or sit in a platform or stay on a platform and throw out one side. That is what we should be doing if we want to really, because there's healing to be done. Look what's happening now. The wounds are opening up again. There's healing to be done. Patrick John, in that piece that you quoted, let us not be, having a lot of hates and so on. I quoted that in my independence address in 1999, I think. I quoted from what Patrick John had said, because I believe that we need to bring together. What we have spent our time doing is demonizing people. The major exercise now in our country is the dehumanization of Lennox Linden. That is the modus operandi of those who would want to take out from positions of authority people who they do not like. And people clearly, as the Calypsonian, he was king the other day, I forget. Well, it's like they don't like you. Okay?
Bob.
Sheridan, you're laughing. Bob. It's like they don't like you.
Hey,
That
Bob.
is what we spend our time doing. So can we draw on Patrick John's life and involvement in history, bring it into contemporary times and say, look, let us do it differently. Corruption, that is something that you pull off the shelf all the time to throw at people who others believe have no right to lead this country. And they believe that because our people's mentality is such that if I see you grow up in your shirt, without shirt, without pants, then you must not lead this country. They believe there's that mentality among some of us. So they can play on that. And all they have to do is to take a Patrick John, take an Edison James, take a Lennox Linden, and tell our own brothers, he too black. Once I said on the public streets that the Freedom Party is a racist party. And I was challenged by a prominent reporter at the time, saying I was sort of fear-mongering. I gave him the name of the person who said on the platform, in the presence of the leader of the Freedom Party at the time, that I was too black to be prime minister. They don't want a black prime minister. And when I told him that, to his credit, he went back to the prime minister, Ms. Jarvis, and I think he told me that yes, she recognized that, and she was going to talk to the person. You understand? But they feel they can do that to us, and we must stop that. So when I said fear no more, it was because I saw the fear. People were afraid. Once you decided that you were going to associate with another group, that not the ruling class, you'd be in trouble. Doreen Paul was fired when she decided to get involved with United Workers' Party. Garnet Didier was fired. Doreen Paul was fired from National Bank. Garnet Didier was fired from Geese Industries. And Earl Williams was fired from the teaching at the State Andrews High School, right? At the same time, you had people like Steve Mello, you had people like Wilma Trillingford, and you had people like my good friend in Portsmouth who was working with Cable and Wireless, who was contesting for the Freedom Party, who stayed in office. So we had to say, fear no more, don't be afraid. And I believe it is relevant now. The fear no more call is relevant now as it was today. And keep in mind, I keep saying that we must come contemporary. Don't just talk about Patrick John and LeBlanc in the 70s without bringing it to now and see how we can change and make things better. I will probably go again. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thanks a lot for that, Mr. James. We have to go to Lambie, because I've been talking about going to Lambie for a while now, and I know there's many people. They always say, why don't you open the line so we can call? We're not getting enough time to call on your show. Lambie, I'm coming to you, but give me 1 second. Let me just again acknowledge the crowd that is building up on Facebook, and let me just call a couple of names very quickly. I'll come back to you right now, Lambie. There's Andy Matthew. Everybody's saying good night to everybody on the panel and talking about a great job. And there is also Marilyn Pascal. Marilyn Pascal said Patrick John extremely popular in his day. His popularity was natural, not purchased. He had not spent a dime to attract popularity. Yusila Roye, and you have Licks or Licks. And that's some really funny names about them. I just want to acknowledge everybody. There's Peter Xavier. Yeah, gentlemen, I hope you all continue to speak the truth about the past leaders and all that. Yeah, I mean, we will do that. Marilyn Pascal, again, she had quite a few comments, but like every one of us made mistakes, but his contribution to the country, he outweighed his mistakes. You see Leroy, there is Zodan Thompson, there is Andy Matthew. There are many people out there on Facebook, and what I want to do when we go over to you, Lambi, and the people who are going to call us, we'll give them an opportunity to make their comments on basically their thoughts, what they have on what's on their mind about Patrick, and about some of the things that we've said here on the panel tonight. But I also want them to think about this. And we asked the question in the promo, should an edifice be named after Dominica's first Prime Minister,
Yes.
Patrick Roland John?
Yes.
And I believe most people are saying yes. The question from the caller,
Let me put my hands up before you go further. That is a firm recommendation that the Windsor Park should be named the Patrick John Windsor Park. That's my recommendation. And I'm saying that because that is where Patrick John did a lot of engagement, encountering. That's where he played his football and became a national player. That is where he received the instruments of independence from Princess Margaret some time ago. So for these and a number of other reasons, I believe it is appropriate to name the Windsor Park the Patrick John Windsor Park. And Simeon in the eulogy mentioned that there's several edifices named after Miss Charles, after Rosie Douglas, Pierre Charles, and Blah, and so on. Ed Regis died a few weeks ago. Within 2 days, 3 days, it was announced that there was a school that's going to be named after him. Patrick John died 3 months before he was buried. I understand the situation, okay? You may not want to name something after somebody who's still alive, wait until he's dead. But Patrick John was dead for 3 months. And there was ample time for him, for an edifice to have been named after him. I'm suggesting the Windsor Park be named after P.G. John for the reason.
But it would be the Patrick John Stadium, not Windsor Park. So the Windsor should go.
Yeah.
And it should be Patrick John Stadium. Yeah.
Well, let's hear from the people out there. Lambi, I mean, get to the callers, give them the numbers, let them call in and express their thoughts and also the recommendations as to what edifice should be named after Dominica's first Prime Minister, Patrick Roland John. Make sure that we can hear the callers, Lambi. So I'm going over to you now, Lambi. Give them the numbers and ask the people to have their say right now.
The Global VMQ, the numbers are 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257, and 305-432-9624. And we already have someone on the line. Caller, please go ahead. Caller, are you there? No, the caller has moved away. So we will close out on this one and take this call. Good evening, caller. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, please.
Well, we're not hearing the caller, Lambi. You need to bring it up.
I'm not hearing the caller either.
Yeah.
So let's try it again.
You need to open up the lines and make sure you can hear them.
Yep. Let's try this one. Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please. No, we seem to be having some technical challenges here.
Maybe she'll
Yes. Okay.
try to help.
Caller, go ahead.
Very good program tonight, you know. There's this saying that all of us are very well aware of, that a king is never honored in his own land. How true is that? You will accept it or not? Thank you.
Well, caller, we do appreciate it.
Good
Good evening, caller. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, gentlemen. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Very well, very well.
I must say the program was very educational and interesting tonight, especially the day of Mr. Patrick John burial, hearing that eulogy coming from Mr. Simeon Joseph. Mr. Simeon Joseph, I must congratulate you again and thank you. A lot of things we heard on that day we never knew happened and took place. So I must congratulate you and thank you. But Mr. James, I'll follow your league, or maybe you follow in my league. The National Stadium we have there, named Windsor Park Stadium, it should be named after Mr. Patrick Roland John, with a big portrait of Mr. Patrick John overlooking that stadium there. That is what we, the people of Roseau, want, because that's where Mr. John lived his life, in that stadium, and knowing he's a man who's so passionate about sports, especially football. We would like that stadium to be named after Mr. Patrick John. The hospital named after Chinese. Clifton Dupini College is no more Clifton Dupini College, it's State College. We want something for Mr. Patrick Roland John. Have a blessed night. I'm listening. Thank you.
Thanks, caller.
Thanks a lot for that.
And we have more calls coming in. On the overseas line, please go ahead with your call.
Yeah, good evening. Is Simeon in the house?
He is there.
Okay, Simeon, I spoke with you at the funeral. I think what we want for really to be done for Mr. Patrick John is have a public holiday and make his burial date 29th of September a public holiday. The first Prime Minister of Dominica was buried on that day. Make him put it in history, you know. Make history. Dominica first Prime Minister was buried on the 29th of September 2021 is a public holiday. Make it a public holiday. We don't want nothing named after him. They're naming everything after everybody else. They never named anything after him while he was alive. He's dead, give him his honors. Give him a public holiday. And Simeon, be careful. Take care. Because you heard all these rumors going on about you. Just take it easy.
Thank you.
I wonder what that color means by that. Ah.
Let's go, Lambi.
Caller, please go ahead with your call.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. I want to make 3 points. First of all, I want to agree that the Windsor Park should be renamed the Patrick John Stadium. And regarding something that missed, a couple of things I want to either establish or correct. Number one, regarding what Mr. James said about what happened on 21st of, on the 19th of July, actually, 19th of June, it was a motion of censure that Ms. Charles was supposed to move. In fact, I have the Hansard in front of me right now, and she stood and she said, "Mr. Speaker, standing in this order paper is a motion of censure in the government of Dominica, a motion I wish to withdraw. I do so because following discussion and so on." In fact, that meeting itself that was held at which OJ was asked to be Prime Minister was an illegal meeting because it was an emergency meeting, and only the Speaker has the right to call an emergency meeting of the House, and there was no Speaker because Mr. Tushin Waldron had resigned. So everything that was done to replace Patrick John was illegal. The overthrow was illegal. The meeting that was held on the 19th of June was also illegal. Now, the other thing I want to make a point. I think Alex said something about Patrick was asking about him becoming leader of the opposition. I hope that is not true, because under the Constitution that we received from England, anybody who is elected as a member of a ruling party cannot become leader of the opposition. So that would have been wrong. Now, in terms of, I think someone mentioned it, but I want to make a point. When Patrick took over from Mr. LeBlanc, in fact, I was in the party at the time. Actually, my mother was, and I saw what happened then. Because it's not true that Amo didn't stand up. There was a long campaign going on in the party, and I remember that the delegates had to be called, and my mother was the point person in the office, and I was there on several occasions. People had to call in and pay their dues, because there was one thing that was very important to the Labour Party, was that they would be true to their constitution. And the constitution required that anyone who was going to be elected as political leader had to be elected by the delegates. And so there was a big campaign going out to call people to make sure that they called into my mother, because my mother was the only one who had the names, called to her to pay their dues, so that when the convention was called, they had sufficient delegates to vote for Mr. Patrick John. And incidentally, by the way, when Mr. John was picked by LeBlanc, my mother knew that Mr. LeBlanc wanted him. In fact, when Mr. LeBlanc fired Miss James, Simeon, Ducre, and W.S. Stevens, the person who informed Mr. Libla, because I think Mr. Libla at the time was in Guyana when the meeting was called by that rogue element to plan against Mr. Libla. The person who had to inform Mr. Libla about it was Patrick John, because my mother was the one she was a member of the executive, and when they had the meeting and she asked them, "What is the agenda?" and they told her what they were going to do. She said, "Well, you need a quorum, and you only have sufficient, and if I leave, you don't have a quorum." And she left the meeting, called Patrick John, and Patrick John called Mr. Libla, and that's when Mr. Libla fired all three of them and then formed the Labour Party, and the rest is history.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for
Yes,
that.
yes, very true.
Yep. Lambi, want to take some more calls?
Yes, on the overseas line, please go ahead with your call.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Trucker here, Mr. G, Lambie, Mr. Joseph and Alex Powell and Dominican people.
How are you doing?
Foremost, I would like to say condolences to the John family and all the friends of Patrick. I never knew all that about Patrick. As a little boy, you know, we hear so many things, but the truth, we never hear the truth. I just want to tell the family that you didn't lost a father, you didn't lost a husband. He had to leave, depart this earthly mansion. And in the spiritual realm, he'll be more vibrant and stronger than ever. Because it's a destiny we all eventually have to go back home. Because every one of us was born as a baby. And from a baby, we are aging to die. We're going to go back home. Because that's where he went back. And he'll be more vibrant. And his story, his legacy, going to always be remembered. And what really I heard tonight there, and almost bring tears to my eye, and to see what's happening right now when you mentioned about he being a 24-year-old, and he was standing up to individual, a 24-year-old. And when I see our 24-year-old right now, it puts us in shame and disgrace. So everything have a reason for happening. We have to write about this man and make sure everyone knows about it. And the 24-year-old and so in Dominica, they got to wake up to the realization they have the powers within them to make a change, because he did it and you all can do it too. And before I leave, I just want to say one of our ladies, a frequent caller in the Baptist area, she said something, and after that I realized what she was saying. Patrick is now someone's neighbor. I know you all know what she's talking about. So hope Patrick gonna pay them a visit. Have a good night.
One more thing before you go. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Do you think an edifice should be named after First Dominica Prime Minister Patrick Roland John? And if so, what do you think that edifice should be named after him?
Well, since he's the one that he very involved in sports in Dominica, we should see to it at least the stadium or something like this should be named after him. We can't let the man, his legacy just go away like that.
All right, thanks a lot for that. Lambi, let's take some more. Okay.
Go ahead, please, caller.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
To all the gentlemen on the panel.
Good evening.
I just want to say that being born in the 70s, in 75, I have not heard anything growing up as much as I heard from when Mr. Joseph gave the eulogy about Mr. Patrick John. And I just want to say that I'm very appreciative and believe that a book should be written on Mr. John, because the next generation and even this generation needs to know, and this book should be out so that even I myself could learn more and the younger ones growing up, because he was the first prime minister in Dominica. And we keep on hearing about this prime minister, but we did not even know about our first prime minister. And if he had to die in order for me to learn, I believe that the new generation right now needs to know more. So I think a book should be written on Mr. John. Thank you.
Oh, there you go. Somebody's recommending a book on Mr. John.
And before we take a next caller, you see, this is very important what this caller is, and that has been the plethora of response to the eulogy of Mr. John. Now, what does that say about us as a people? What it says to us is that we need to be conscious and mindful of something called control of the flow of information and the manipulation of learning and education. Okay? That if we are not careful and if we do not open up ourselves to our history, we can always be controlled by those who want to control our thinking and those who want to manipulate our understanding of history. Okay? And I am happy to know that many people are coming forward and saying that they appreciate what was said, while there are many detractors, because they would like us to continue to perpetuate their truth. One of the good things about all of this is that we are now beginning, because you see, one of my concerns about Dominica is our young people born after 1980. What is their moral compass? What is their historical arrow? What is their cultural grounding? So much so independence has now come to be synonymous with Creole festival and codfish and wearing of clothes and those kind of things. Okay, what is our how you call it now, a socio-economic political foundation that we are laying for our young people, to the extent that many of our young people are growing up without knowing our history, without knowing who our elders are, without knowing our traditions, etc. And that is only because for a long while, there have been a sector in Dominica that has always wanted to control information, control the masses, and present some sort of facade to people about a Dominica that they would like to postulate.
Thanks a lot for that, Simeon. Lambi?
Yeah, we've got some more calls. Let's take this call. Caller, you've been very patient. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm there, Lambi.
Yes, go right ahead.
Good night to Mr. G and Honorable Prime Minister Edison James, Alex, and Simeon.
Good night.
I want to call because I too, as a little boy, I was influenced into politics by the Freedom Party. And a lot of this history, a lot of the truth, a lot of what really happened, I never know anything about it. So I want to pick up Mr. G for bringing the information to people, because if you speak the truth will set you free. And I would also pick up Mr. James, because I remember once I went to the Rosa Market and I was talking to a couple Rasta man. And I know Rasta man as conscious people, and I was talking to him about the UWP. And he was telling me that Edison James is too ugly. And I was shocked, because as a Rasta man, I know he comes. I said, man, that's the same thing with fighting black people. I thought we were supposed to be proud of who we are, proud of our skin, proud of our color, proud of our identity. So the foundation that was laid in the 60s and 70s need to be dismantled with the truth, because there's a lot of lies and hypocrisy and mischief that set up us today. That's why Dominica are where we are today. And it needs to change. We need to put it into perspective what is happening today. Because it's the same thing that's going on with Honorable Enoch Clinton. We're talking about Dominica. It's not about individual. We're talking about developing Dominica. And some people always think they are the ones should be in charge. They are the ones alone to control Dominica. But no, thank you for the enlightenment, and I'm listening. Good conversation, good information, and hats off to all of you guys. Thank you so much.
Right, and thanks a lot for that, Lambi.
Caller, please go ahead with your call.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Congratulations to Mr. Josie. A job well done. Now, what he said tonight is very true. Most people don't appreciate their own. Instead of help you, they destroy your character. Sometimes they don't know you at all. They just hear something and they do it. But the good that you do, it's forgotten. But most people remember the Honorable Patrick John for the good he done, had he had done. And other people that have done good, they don't remember. They don't remember at all. They always remember the evil. Most people had to leave this country because of the treatment they received. Not that they wanted to leave Dominica. Because of the bad treatment, some of them just had to leave Dominica. But I hope from Mr. Patrick John, the eulogy that was read, we learn a lesson. I have learned a good lesson. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for your call.
Hello? I'm good, I'm good. Good night to the panel.
Good night.
Maybe I don't really know. I know Edison James on the panel. Maybe I don't know the other gentleman on the panel, but it's a very, very good, very interested program. And I was just wondering why they didn't have that program before Patrick John passed away. But anyway, it's a very, very good, interested program. Well, for me, on the behalf of me and my family in Dominica and Dominicans that know about Patrick John, they should not be so hypocrite about this man. This man is a man that do very good for Dominica. He brought Dominica into independence, and people who know in the 70s that when you go through Carib Reserve, you go to Marigot, you go to Whitford Hill, all along Dominica, on a Friday, you could see how happy people are getting their pay on a Friday. Everybody could say that. The road was clean, everything was intact. But another thing that really keep me bazudi, as we Dominican will say, you get a news and it keep you bazudi. It's like the Freedom Party come in. Well, whoever joined the Freedom Party, I know they maybe don't really know their full name at this time because I was young at that time in the 70s of Patrick John getting independent. I was like 25 years. Right now I'm in my 60s. Hello? Are you there?
Yes, we're right there with you. Go right ahead.
You hearing me clearly?
Very, very clearly. Yes. Loud and clear.
Yes. So, and I believe that there was a set of people that get together to throw out Patrick John out of office. That really was clear. A lot of people in Dominica can say that was the truth. A lot of people get together and say, hey, because I remember one time Eugenia Charles say that I cannot see that poor little black boy fishing by Roseau Bayside and being prime minister. You know? So it's like, hey, we'll have to get him out. You know? But this man do a lot for Dominica. Even in Marigot, I remember they make a housing scheme in Marigot. And people, well, who could afford get those houses and pay for them, whatever. But that was a good thing. You know? The roads were never been bad, but I'm always saying, like the Labour Party, I raised up in the Labour Party. Really raised up in the Labour Party. My mother was a photo Labour Party. My father was a Labour Party too. And I can tell you that Labour Party they have there right now is not the original Labour Party. At no time, I can cut my head off. This Labour Party they have there right now is not the original Labour Party. And people that know about Labour, as Patrick John will say, he had the unions, he had the social security, he had the medical benefits, and everything was good. Besides, they make their plan to overthrow Patrick John for them to live in luxury. And some of us used to, foyer, as we'll say that in patois. We struggle. And this man, all what people saying about this man, may his soul rest in peace. May I send my condolences to his family, and let us make a statue, put up a big statue in Dominica to say, hey, this is the first prime minister, like how they do in Antigua. A lot of Dominicans go to Antigua. The prime minister of Dominica go to Antigua, and he see how they have their bird statue. The first prime minister of Antigua. Let us do it for the man. Let his name reign. Let the students of tomorrow know about this man. Another thing, the last thing I have to say, with Lennox Honeychurch writing the history of Dominica. I met Lennox, so I was planning to do history, but you know why I live? Is because I saying to myself, I don't know, but when I know all them history there, who going and pay me? I just going around and just learning history. All in Carol Reserve up there, I meet Lennox, finding things from old people, and I write there. There's a lot of things that people write and they don't write the truth. Let the truth be reign in Dominica. Let the truth set us free.
Thanks a lot, Lambi.
And anyway, Paril, God bless you all.
Thank you.
And I have a lot more to say. Because up to the time we had investors coming to Dominica and they say, oh, Patrick John going to give away the whole north of Dominica to a man from South Africa. And you have to have passport to go to Portsmouth. And the whole of Mary was running around like fools because of Eugenia Charles. Eugenia Charles had all the bishops, all the priests in Catholic Church running to Calibishi with the Prime Minister of Antigua saying, "Oh, vote for Eugenia, vote for Eugenia."
But Lambi, I want to appreciate the caller, Lambi.
Gentlemen, and have a good evening.
Yes,
I hope you could do that another time. But
yes, thanks.
They should.
So that I'm sure we'll have other programs that you will be able to call and participate and express the rest of the views that I could see that you have a lot to say and you're passionate about it. I'm pretty sure that we'll have other shows where you can call and express. Lambi, before we take another call, I just wanted to raise a couple of things. So there's a lot of great comments coming on Facebook. One or two people, the younger people, are saying, listen, Simeon has said, Patrick John was more than his mistakes. But they're saying we've heard a lot about all his accomplishments, but we need to hear some of his mistakes. That's so we ourselves don't make those mistakes. So if any of us want to touch on any one of those things, we can. If we feel that we, would like to bring that out, we don't have that much time left. But Lambi, you have any more calls on the line waiting?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Caller,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening, gentlemen. Briefly,
Yes.
the suggestion for Patrick John, the Windsor Park Stadium was my first choice. And secondly, I see at the roundabout at Pont Cafe, something has been going on there secretly. I must say secretly, because it has never been publicly announced. And I believe that roundabout would be a good location for a statue of the Honorable Roland Patrick John. Thank you.
And thanks a lot for that. That's the second person who has said the statue. But we have a few more people who have said the stadium. So it looks like the stadium has more people so far than the statue. But let's keep going. Lambi, you have one more call. Let's take it.
Yes. Caller on the overseas line, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening to the panel. Good evening to Dominica. And good evening to the family of his wife and children of the Honorable Patrick John. I born in the 60s, and I witnessed a lot of things from a very young age. Where Patrick John had that heart for Dominica. And the thing about it is, when I have to remember those days, what they did to the Labour Party of Patrick John, when Dominica was above all the other countries around the Caribbean under Patrick John rule. It is sad. And even the president we have sitting there, he is the key man that caused Dominica to be in the state it is today. And Patrick John did a lot for Dominica in terms of feeder roads and a lot of things for farmers, a lot of things. May his soul rest in peace. And I want Dominicans to remember the good that Patrick John did. And I have to, how should I say it now? But I have to congratulate Mr. Edison James. The short time he stayed in office, the kind of things he did to the country in terms of school and a lot of different things. Purchase land for the airport under his leadership and a lot of things. And Dominicans listen to all lies. And you know something? That is why Dominica in the state it is. And if our people don't open their eyes, if they open their eyes, I'm sorry for our country. Thank you. You gentlemen, you all have a good night to Dominica.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for that. Lambi, you still want to take another one? I told you the lines will be going, Lambi.
Please go ahead, caller.
Yes, good evening to the and good evening to the distinguished panel. Before I make my contribution, Mr. G, you always saying that we haven't got much time. And because Mr. G, you are the owner of the station, you are the manager of the station. After this program is over, they're going to tell me some story about somebody who was Chairman Mao, and how he was victimized and saying, or somebody who was the first bodybuilder in India because are those things more important than what we are discussing now? Very important subjects. Because on Tuesday, I think you can just add another half an hour to the program instead of bringing those things about what is saying in it. But if people going to join.
The only thing is, I have some people on the show there. Some of them have to get some sleep, and some of them about the thing to do. If they're all right with it, I know some of them have to work early in the morning. If they're okay, we can take the extra little time, but that's sometimes a constraint. Go right ahead, though.
With people about in Dominica and how what would have been her position she was alive. I was struggling to patch production, and during that time I stayed at the official residence. So I have been privy to many conversations. Most of the things Simeon said, or many of the things Simeon said, I am aware of it. But you know what really stood out is when Simeon said, had a conversation with some report journalist, and she said she cannot good thing that Patrick Roland has done for Dominica. So that has convinced in the past that if you was alive, she would support that this person regime. And the reason I'm saying so because Patrick John, which has passed on to the leadership United Labour of the United Workers' Party, past and present, are so deep.
Yes, he's breaking up.
Probably your signal is in and out.
It's unfortunate that he has broken up so often. Very unfortunate.
We have calls coming out, gentlemen. It's 11 minutes past 9. Mr. G, it's back to you.
You want to take any more calls, Lambi? I don't know if our panel wants to stay up a little bit later. Some of them are not so young, including me. I mean, Alex and Simeon and so on can stay up all night. But now, Lambi, you want us to move on, or you want to take a couple more?
Let's take 2 more calls. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead with your call.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Simeon Josie, thank you for that legacy. Thank you very much. You educate me because the amount of thing I have, Mr. Patrick John, and when you tell us the truth, all different. My mother always tell us that man was a good man. She always tell us that. And
Caller, we lost you. We lost that caller. So let's. Good evening, caller. Go ahead with your call quickly.
Well, good evening to you, Lambe. Good evening to Mr. Edison James and to Alex Bruno and the man himself, Simeon Joseph from Silver Street. That's where I know him. That's where I raised on the top street. I know Simeon a long time, and he's a very conscious man, and I like this speech that he gave. But I will tell you something about Mr. Patrick Roland John Matthew don't know. I was a little boy living in River Street. And Mr. Roland Patrick John was my sister Power. As Prime Minister, when he come to River Street, he don't have to hide. He walk on his own. A little kitchen I cannot take my mother and her child. He was in it. And he don't want no cup in cabinet. Mr. Patrick John take his food from the pot and sit down in the yard and eat among my mother and them. I ball. So that's why I'm telling you, that man, he had meant something good for this country, but those that was above are planning to take over his leadership. And they really do it well because they let the private sector and the unions come together as one. I was just about 18 years when they take over Mr. Patrick Roland John. I can remember a lot of things. I was in Roseau. I was by the ministry. I see most of what happened. I lost my partner right there, Mr. Timothy. He used to work at the port. So Mr. John do well for this country, and he will continue to remember by this country, and the sports stadium will name after him. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
And Sheridan and the rest of Dominica, that's the human side of Patrick that we were deprived of knowing, because those who were against Patrick presented a caricature of a cold, impersonal person that was totally not who he was. And when people speak, if you know PJ and you listen to people who speak about PJ, that was the man. I mean, there's simple little things about PJ. PJ used to iron his own clothes as prime minister and that of his wife, you know. And PJ used to go by the when we and I'm glad the guy mentioned Fever Street, because for a year or two in my life I live a lot more. I live in Pottersville, right there among the fishermen. And those sorts of things, and you could see fishermen coming in, and Patrick would just stop his can, go by the seaside in Pottersville and sit down and talk to people. You know, these are the things. And you know, one of the significant things about PJ as Premier and Prime Minister is that throughout his time, Patrick didn't have 6 or 7 or 9 or 10 security guards around him. Okay? Patrick had one driver, Edin Kotsenval. Okay? And maybe one defense force, who later was found out to be a crook anyway, because he used to be at Monbrose all the time. Only to find out he was a crook among the defense force to go and carry back tales to the may his soul rest in peace. I'm not going to mention his name.
Don't call names.
But he was a crook, and everybody know he was a crook. He would be the first person by Patrick in the morning and the last person, only to find out long after he even eventually became a driver for a popular politician in Dominica. Okay, and we know that. But the point was that Patrick would move everywhere without any security, even when threats were made on his life, you know, and those sorts of things there. So that is the grassroots, down to earth personality that he was, man. You know, and you know.
I remember I too grew up on River Street, Simeon. Lived on 2 places in River Street. But I remember also, I mean, other prime ministers went around Dominica without security. I mean, Edison James wasn't up. I used to see him driving his van all over the place. I remember Rosie Douglas tried to pay the security for him to be able to drive on his own. Rosie Douglas didn't want security. I see Pierre is blue and driving up and down Granville, Lally, and Pierre didn't have security.
So, right, but you see, one of the sad realities, and I'm going to say it tonight, and we need to be mindful of it because it's still very much present among us, on the political, economic landscape of Dominica, the culture. There's something about Dominica, the politics of culture in Dominica. And I alluded to it in the eulogy, and there were some people who were upset, but I'm going to resurrect it again. Because unless we are mindful of it and have it forefront of our mind, we will go to our graves without that being eliminated from the society in Dominica. And what I'm speaking to is the fact that Dominica has always been in the palm of that bourgeois Roseau elite and a certain sect of the post-mob community and other people in Dominica who felt that they must be in control by all means. And at any time you have a working class rising to power in Dominica, they will seek their utmost to destroy them. They did it with Mr. Leblanc. They did it with Patrick John. And these very same people who were around Leblanc and Patrick John, when Patrick John Leblanc left and Patrick John fell, sought to come around Miss Charles. But she didn't have time for them, or they sought to gain prominence. When UWP came in, they tried and they couldn't. And now you can see that they are entrenched in the status quo. And the young people of Dominica need to be mindful of that. Because these people in Dominica, the controlling class, will never be happy when they see young men from the country and young people from the working class people of Dominica in the reins of power in this country. And when they cannot control them, when they cannot dictate to them, when they cannot manipulate them, when they cannot direct their thoughts and their actions, they will try to discard them. And that's what they did to Patrick John. That's what they have tried to do all the time. And that you call the controlling elite social economic class of Dominica who think that Dominica belongs to them. And it is very sad when you see many young people today are sucking up and kissing up to that sector of society. And they think that the only way they can gain some status is to ascribe to that sector of society that is that what you call the nouveau riche. A set of people who think that they have money and power and influence. And so every politician, every business person, every poor person child must be at their behest and call. That is still very much prevalent in Dominica today. And unless Dominican grassroots poor people, the rural folk, the agriculture folk, the fisher folk would rise up and take their place and take their stand in Dominica, they will always be subservient to that elite group of people who seek to control the masses of this country.
I believe Edison James would have a few things that he can say about some of that. One of the things just before I go to you, Mr. James, is that, you know, I visited Desiree and Patrick maybe about a year and a half ago. And I went and looked at the conditions. This is the first Prime Minister of Dominica. And I saw the condition of the house a couple of years ago. And I spoke to Desiree. I said, oh boy, she took me on a tour. And the house was in bad shape. So I was saying to myself, why would we treat our first Prime Minister that way? He's bedridden, he's ill. And then later on, I heard about some efforts that will be made for prime ministers, past prime ministers. But I'm also hearing about certain things being given and being taken back and all that kind of things from the lady. She said to me, you know, that there was a vehicle or something. She was asked to return it and whatnot. I just couldn't figure out why the first prime minister of Dominica had to be treated that way. I don't know whether anybody else was observing that, but I mean, it seems to me, if we're talking about this bridge again and bringing across all those things and all of what Simeon and I know and Alex and Edison are going to say, I mean, why is it that poor people's children are to be treated that way? So Edison, let me just go over to you, Mr. James.
Yeah, what Simeon spoke about a while ago, that you have to qualify to lead. If you don't have it, you can't lead. I would say is money, color, and need. So you have to have money, you have to have color, you have to have need. Right now, and I think I keep saying to you that I want to have back all the time to the eulogy. In that eulogy, Simeon mentioned the piece by Lennox Honey Church, where he talked about the Lebanese and the Syrians. Is what he said, Simeon. Right now, our country is being controlled by Anthony and Anthony. Anthony Astafan and Anthony Hayden. That's who's controlling our country. You have to have money, power, name. And the sad thing about it is the extent to which our people, our black people, our country people, our young people get carried away with this because we are being paid for suckers. And we have to appreciate that that is the line of attack. Corruption. They pull it down from the shelf and they throw it at us. Corruption, corruption, corruption. So if you don't have money and you don't have color and you don't have name, you have no right to lead this country, no matter how qualified you are, both in terms of your academic qualifications, your work experience, and these sort of things. That doesn't matter. What they put forward to you is money, color, and name. So now it's Anthony and Anthony who are controlling our country. One is controlling our minds, and one is controlling our money. And so we have to be, as I say, allow our engagement, our focus on Patrick John now to not only stay in that period, that 74 to 79 and going back to Libra 61 to 74 in Patrick took over, but we have to bring it here. I think also references me to the who controls the narrative. And our people have to understand that. We cannot have a situation where our national radio, DBS radio, which reaches everybody, is denied to a substantial part of the population. The votes the other day at the last election, 16,500 people voted for the United Workers' Party. 23,000 voted for the Labour Party. A number of those people are came in to vote and left and went away. So there's a substantial number of people who are part of the United Workers' Party by virtue of the votes they've cast. And there are others who didn't cast a vote to support the party. It is wrong for our national radio station, a major medium of communication, to be denied to that substantial part of the country. And the manager of the radio station, Cecil Joseph, must be made aware of this thing. And the policymakers, the other policymakers, and the people of Dominica must decide that that is not enough. It's not going to happen. It must not continue. I believe also that Kyrie FM has to be brought in the picture because the constitution of our country dictates that we should not be discriminated against based on political grounds. And to the extent that Kyrie FM, notwithstanding it is supposed to be a private owned station, the fact that it has created a license to operate indicates that it is using state property to be able to function. And the Constitution tells us that you must not be discriminated against because of your political considerations. So to the extent that we are denied access to Kyrie FM because of the politics, that is also a constitutional breach. Vibes Radio, GIS, that is important. If we recognize the need to be able to communicate, to be able to get the message across. And so that is an issue that we have to deal with. I also have to make the point that here is a situation where Patrick John, I think I referred to that earlier, Patrick John, the leader of the Labour Party, who was involved in doing the things that we all agree that he did positively for the country. We have not ventured into, in any meaning, in any substantial way, into those things that were considered negative. Probably we do not think so too. But the leader of a party, you would have thought that party, any party, any group that calls itself Labour Party, will be proud to be singing from the mountain top the good that Patrick John has done, to lift him up and to lift up that good. No, what we have, a Labour Party here now in office, is running away from Patrick John. I mentioned earlier, Simeon hasn't responded. I was surprised to see that the Prime Minister of the country did not have a part to play in that funeral service. I would have thought that at the end, he would have had take the opportunity to say a few words at that time in public. I know Simeon mentioned that. I think I heard him at the time of the death made some passing comments. I think it's disappointing that, from what you said, Simeon, that Eugenia Child should have said that there was nothing good that she could say that Patrick has done. Freedomites, labor rights, independent people. Is that reasonable? Is that a reasonable position? That you can see, you have nothing, as far as you can say, he did nothing good. It cannot be. Yes, we can talk about and not sidetrack what might be the negatives. But to say that it's disingenuous. Okay, and well, perhaps let me move on from. But that is what was said. So I would just say here that there are lessons to be learned. What would Patrick John if the Labour Party now were to follow the vision and the actions and the aspirations or whatever of Patrick John, what would we be doing now? We would not be giving people homes and not giving them title, but holding the houses over their heads so that we can say, look, say Mweki Bausa, Super you understand the Patro Simeon? So, and we will give you that. If you don't vote for me, we go take them away. Say Mweki Bausa, si you vote for me, mo keep away. You understand? Let me do this in English for all of you guys to understand. So the Patrick John would give you the house and give you certificate title. Okay? Make you a man, not have you there as dependent and have you on a string, like a puppet on a string. And, I'm pulling back, longy, pinch, that sort of thing. That is, I think, what you asked, Sheridan, what would Patrick be saying and doing. With respect to the stimulus, I do not know what he would have done with respect to the stimulus, but I know he would be compelled by the law in a situation where you've told people that they must not do this, they must not do that, in a way that affected their income stream and their business. The law says that you must pay compensation, and I would expect him to pay compensation in that regard. But probably the person who he is, he would not have to depend on the dictates of the law to recognize that he needs to reach out to people who would be suffering hardship as a result of this situation with the pandemic. And let me say that I'm fully vaccinated, and I would urge those people who are onshore, I would urge them to vaccinate. I'm not compelling you, I can't compel you, but I just want to make it clear that I'm vaccinated. I'm a scientist by training, biochemistry, so that if I were to remember my biochemistry teaching, I would be able to tell you what goes into the virus, what is the makeup of the virus, whether it's ribonucleic acid, deoxyribonucleic acid, the ribosomes, the amino acids. I understand these things. So I'm saying to you, get vaccinated and let us deal with this situation.
All right. Well, former Prime Minister, don't point at me. I'm vaccinated too, so don't point your finger at me, okay? I don't know if Alex and them get this, but I got mine, and I'm okay. As a matter of fact, I feel so much secure now that I have it, because although I wear my mask and I sanitize and so on to keep my social distance, the fact of the matter is you feel a little bit better about yourself because you've been vaxxed. So I mean, I'm very happy to have done that. I just want to remind everybody that on the 1st of November, our Kudos to Our Heroes Committee will be recognizing First Dominican Patrick Roland John as a national hero. The same way that we did for people like Alwyn Bully, and before him, Dr. Paul and some other people. First Prime Minister Patrick Roland John will be our national hero on that day. And I have a comment from one of my committee members. I'm not going to call any names, but they said, this is excellent. So they're giving us a full endorsement, our committee, a full endorsement to go ahead and honor Patrick John. We'll do it posthumously. I mean, his wife, I hope she will be able to come to the studio. If she can, she will be online on WebEx, just like we are now. And I hope that some family members will be in the studio to receive the accolades and the flowers and everything else, and the plaques and everything else that we'll be giving in his honor and his recognition. All right. So I just thought I'd say this. But Alex, because we obviously, although I mean, one of our callers thought we should stay a while, and we did stay over a while. But I want to go over to you to see if we can add, because we're coming on to the point where we have to wind up. I know you guys are young, but still, we all need a little sleep now and then. Alex, your thoughts, your further thoughts. I mean, so much has been said. I mean, there's so much more to be said, but we'll deal with them in other programs.
A lot, quite a lot. And we wouldn't even be able to deal with Patrick's misfortunes, his shortcomings, his faults, because we can speak about that too. I mean, There are two major characters, Mike Perdue and Don Pearson. We could speak about those. I have no issues talking about that and relating Patrick's view on those stories. We could speak about the undeclared or the discrepancy with his refunds, and we can speak about the, I mean, so many things. So probably on the next program, we can highlight the many areas which cause questions. One of the major issues with Patrick, though, he was too trusting, he was cavalier-ish, and he had this attitude about things that, man, let that be, man. God will vindicate him. And at the end, God comes through for you, you know. But in times like now, know that he is going to meet his maker. Nothing happens. And Patrick always warned me, and Simeon too, not to speak about him, because he always felt that speaking about Patrick would just disturb the tranquility of the people and the country. I mean, Mr. G, you came to me. You could be truthful. I mean, when you came to me and asked me to speak, I told you no. Let Patrick bury. Didn't I tell you that, Mr. G?
You did. You did.
Because he always insisted that we not do that. So we are doing what is necessary now. Quickly, a gentleman mentioned Patrick being powering of his daughter, of his sister or somebody. Patrick John told me once, right? But Alex, I think I was empowering to most people in Dominica. And he only understood why after a while, because everybody who had him stand for his child, their children, expected him to help them with the child. So because of that, Patrick was the power of almost, the illegal power of almost, I mean, so many people. So that was a point that really stood to me. The other issue was the dreads. There's a dread who told me that let the ancestor spirit rest in peace. I told him, based on what I understand of the ancestors in terms of African synergy and culture, the spirits of the ancestors don't rest in peace. That is a colonial sort of a jargon that was placed on the idea of the deceased, that it should rest. In Africa, an African culture, the spirit of the great spirits roam and they find embodiment. So one Rasta told me one time, he was running from Babylon and he found himself just lifted and he was just hoisted off over a mountain. He don't know how he got there, but he knows something pushed him. And he said at times they would see things and visions in the bush, keeping them company. Now a Rastaman chastised me and tell me, well, he that to me with the rest in peace spirit, you know. And the people, the elders on the Rasta movement that I spoke to, told me that Patrick John reached out to them and said, look, let's talk. They said, no, they're not coming to talk to him. He must come to the bush and meet them. Well, Patrick was not going to go to the bush. And the Rasta said, in hindsight, we should have gone to speak to the man because the man was serious. And at the end of the day, the man met with us and he gave us land in TFM, his land. At the end of the turmoil, he gave his personal land. Simeon can tell you that. He told Simeon that too. His personal land in the area called TFM, where some Rastas still live. He gave that to them. So there is a kind of a system, a kind of a mix-up in our society, which suggests that if you don't support somebody, nothing good can come from that person. And that's what Patrick go through. And that's why the Rasta can say, Mr. James is too ugly. It goes back to that same sort of silly, sick, unfortunate mentality. And finally, before Simeon comes in, we spoke about the heroes, Alwyn Bully, Patrick John. How many of us knew that Alwyn Bully designed the national flag? I guess we should all know that.
Yes.
We all know that.
This is the point.
How many of us know that the cross on the national flag was Patrick John's contribution to the design?
Yes.
He got the design from Alwyn, like the Jamaican flags. They all have straight designs and colors. Our flag had the same kind of a straight designs. Patrick John insisted that a cross be placed on the flag. That's Patrick's input. How many of us know that? So if we're talking about heroes, and Alwyn is a hero, which he should be, people like Gordon Henderson, because of his pioneering work with the music, should be. Patrick John certainly has to be in the top 1 or 2 heroes of our country. And nothing that he would have done should erase that. Look at the American former presidents and whatever they were. I mean, do you know they owned slaves and they did all kind of concubines all around the place? But they are national treasures of America. Why couldn't a man with all his frailties who brought us to independence and did so much, why can't he be a hero? In which book? Are we not Christians? Don't we believe in forgiveness? I rest for now until you ask me to speak again.
And thanks, Alex and Simeon. Your further thoughts. I mean, we could go here all night, but we have
Yes.
to wrap, right? So,
You see, what I would like, my thoughts, what I would really like is, while we speak about Patrick the man, and we may even look at his mistakes, I think what is most significant in reflecting on Patrick John is what lessons we can take away. And one of the ironical processes of thought that I have is that in 2021, we are willing to condemn Patrick for so many quote unquote mistakes that he made. Yet still, in today's context, we are willing to overlook the very definition of those mistakes within our contemporary context. Patrick was wrong to be corrupt. Today we say it's okay to be corrupt. Patrick may have been heavy-handed. Today we praise heavy-handedness. Patrick may have been stubborn and strong-willed. Today we say it's the best political acumen that people should have. Patrick may have been someone whom they said was rigging elections. Today we say it's the best way to win elections. And so we ask ourselves, while we are quick to condemn Patrick, have we really learned from the lessons of the mistakes that we actually condemn Patrick about? And that is what I want us to think about and simmer in our brains, because you see, what I take away from that is a lesson that it is not, for us, it is not the mistake, but who makes the mistake. So if we favor the one who makes the mistake is okay and the wrong is okay. And if we don't favor the one who makes the mistake, then the mistake is wrong. And that is one of the lessons we have to take away. The other lesson I would like us to take away as we reflect on Patrick is that when we survey from our own post-independence and pre-independence historical context, let us look at it. PJ, Mr. Libla came, and he came for a while, and he retired quietly to Vacaz until he came out again in May 1990 at the Dominican Labour Party convention, only to retreat again to quietness. And we had Patrick John. You could say 4.5 years, taking us into independence and not being given the opportunity to usher us into the first years of independence. We had Seraphine, who completed the term of Patrick John and brought us to independence in less than no time. We had the great, big, powerful, mighty Eugenia Charles, whom nobody ever thought would be out of power, even die, because she was this iron lady, this formidable woman. Hey, we've gotten Edison James 4.5 years, Rosie and Piero that tells us that power is transient. And as I said in the eulogy, one of the things we need to learn from PJ and all of that is that power can be taken away in the blink of an eye, like the kiss of death. And that's what we need to understand, that power is not ours to behold forever. And we may think power can be taken away from us tomorrow, either by death, by the will of the people, or by some stroke of nature. Okay? And so we need that is one thing we need to understand. And again, to realize that, again, from Patrick, if I may end on this, when we are bestowed with the opportunity to lead and in positions of power, it is a divine opportunity to lift people up, not to suppress people. It is a God-given mandate to let people exist in freedom rather than oppression. It is an opportunity out of leadership to bring people to the best that they can be rather than letting them live in fear. It is an opportunity to confront others who are against you and see what you can learn from them. And not only what you can learn from them on their own behalf, but what you can learn about your very self, instead of alienating them, instead of putting them in the margins, and instead of using the bureaucracies of the state to stifle talent and creativity and ingenuity and productivity. That's what we need to learn from PJ as we go off this afternoon. So while we contemplate on PJ and we think of PJ's thing, I think what we need to look at most significantly about PJ is his legacy, what he has left for us, but most significantly, the lessons about the man that we can learn from for the positive, and most importantly, study from the negative perspective to ensure that we never do them again.
Thank you, Simeon. I thought that was great for your closing comments there. I want to go to Mr. James. I want to give you the last word. Former Prime Minister James, you started us going. Now you're going to help us to wrap it up tonight.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Sheridan. I just want to repeat that it will not be beneficial to us if we just having deciphered, having analyzed the life of Patrick John, the work of Patrick John as Prime Minister, and we do not arrange to address our minds to how we take what happened at that time, how we take what Patrick John stood for, what he did, and bring it into contemporary times, see what is happening now, and to give us some guidance as to how we need to change things, modify things. I think we've already agreed that the modus operandi of those who would want to take down people who they do not think should be in leadership in this country is to throw at them corruption, hate mongering. And we saw it. The United Workers' Party administration was attacked with this corruption matter. We have been out of office for 20 years. Nobody has put a finger on any one of us with respect to any charge of corruption. And I think Alex referred to it, that it was said subsequently that it was just a ploy, or it was just a political ploy. And part of the political ploy was to have appointed Tony Astobar, who was the main accuser, to investigate his accusations. And of course, he came up with naught. But that is the extent to which our people were conned and fooled. And I would say almost made fools of. So we need to look at that. We talk about Patrick John and the fact that he went to jail, having been the subject of examination by a court. In today's day, would the leadership of today allow themselves to be before the court? When we look at what happened with the IPO, where the IPO matter was before the court and Parliament was engaged to make sure in the end that the IPO matter was removed from before the court without any consideration. When you look at treating and bribery, which is supposed to have been before the court, in the days of Patrick John, yes, he would have gone to court. The court would have deliberated and probably sent him to found him guilty. Today, that was removed from the court with the direct involvement of the leader of the country, with the direct involvement. And we have the DPP now prosecuted, having been approached by the Prime Minister, who, as Prime Minister, had a direct input into whether that person would hold a particular office. You understand that? Would that, in today's day, if that were, would the court be allowed, if Patrick John were to have behaved in the way that we've been behaving now, would the court be allowed to have an opportunity to try him? Based on what's happening now, we don't know. And part of the discussion was that he was seeking to get foreigners to come into this country and engage with foreigners. We have Choksi. Our country has been accused of being involved in international crime. We hear nothing from our leaders, not to say it is not true, or tongue-in-cheek say it's not true, but to explain to the people. We hear about our leading, our leader, law enforcement officer being involved, and they will not say to explain to the population. They ignore the population with contempt. Okay, is that the kind of thing that we should not pay attention to? We heard about Patrick John and was it a Freeport down at the Cabrits, where we have Kempinski, and a substantial part of our national park was hoofd off. What is the situation with that? So we need to look at those people who are looking at the current situation, those people who are part of the Labour Party now, as it's described. What are you part of? If a man who was the leader of the Labour Party brought independence and all those good things we have talked about, all these achievements, should you not, as a Labour Party, be at the forefront there with your bull horn, singing the praises of your party? I would suggest that a leader of the Conservative Party now would be out there with the clarion call and praises for what his party did 100 years ago. But here in Dominica, the Labour Party, current Labour Party, seems to be distancing itself from the achievements of the Labour Party. So what are you in? Are you in a Labour Party? Are you in a Labour Party? No. And the structure of a building is the concrete, if it's a concrete building with your louvers, whether wooden louvers or glass louvers and doors and so on. The structure of a party is your constitution. A constitution which tells you what it should be made about. Party groups, constituency associations, it tells you how you should operate, that you should have meetings every so often, with what level of frequency. What do we have it now? After how many years? Is this, what are you a part of? No. Should you not be proud of your party and your leadership, which did so much for the country under the banner of your party? So pay attention. You have a situation where Patrick John, I think it's both Simeon and Ali gave us the figure $47. $47 or $45?
Yes, 47.
$47 that he supposedly was not able to account for, and he was taken to task. Now we are hearing about $4.5 billion not accounted for, and not put in the consolidated fund where it should be put. No explanation. There's a director for this constitution, and we talked about the extent to which people have been, falling over themselves to say that the removal of Patrick John was constitutional. So that's a great desire to be seen as having operated within the bounds of the Constitution. But the Constitution says that the Director of Audit must prepare reports on the finances of the country, and that those reports must be passed on to the Minister of Finance within a certain time, and that those reports must be placed before the Parliament and therefore put in the public domain within a certain time. And that if those reports are not so put in the public domain by the Prime Minister within a certain time, the Speaker of the House must do that. That is what the Constitution says. That hasn't happened. There are two Director of Audit reports that we cannot see the light of day on. And neither the Minister of Finance nor the Speaker has been true to their constitutional obligation, to put that way. So how much are we, and to what extent are we in honor of our Constitution? So these are some of the things that I believe that the life of Patrick John, the operation of Patrick John, should allow us to examine and to seek to do better. At the core of Patrick John's philosophical position and his actions was to remove our people from a position of mendicancy and dependency to one where they are hardworking, they are productive, they are independent. What do we have today? Institutionalized mendicancy and dependency. So I'm saying to you, fellow panelists and those who listen to me, let us examine what we have to examine, and let us take away what we have to take away. But importantly, let what we have examined allow us to do better for the Speaker of Piece of Rock, Dominica. Let us not continue to make decisions based on who we like and who we don't like, and to dehumanize people, and to say all kind of measure of nasty things about them, to deny people their rights, to put people in fear. so that public servants and non-public servants, almost everybody in this country is fearful of saying or doing anything that will displease Bwana. Bwana is an African term for the bushman. So if, as we say farewell in this forum, Patrick, let that farewell allow us to be able to draw on what we've examined and to do better for us and our country. Thanks.
Yes, and I really want us to, you see, all good things have to come to an end, Alex and Simeon and Mr. James. I mean, we could have gone on forever. There's so much more to be said. We'll have to do that in another forum at another time. There's always going to be other opportunities. But I thought tonight I would like to leave on this note. You know, the whole question of the bridge. It's important for us to understand what that means, because we have to carry on, we have to transcend it from one generation to another. But important, as Simeon said, we all said the lessons that we have to take with us. These are lifelong lessons. This is real lessons, real life we're talking about. I mean, these are not cursory things that you can just touch on en passant. These are real lessons. We're talking about human beings, right? We're all human. Everybody's going to make some mistakes, but there are lessons to be learned, whether it's from the good things we do or the mistakes that we make. There are lessons we learned. We have to take them on board and help to build, to keep building, and to keep creating that bridge, so we keep moving across it. But then again, of course, when we look at this lecture series on our leadership from Baron to Skerrit, we'll look at the whole question of legacy. Because, I mean, it's so important. You have to leave something behind for future generations to hold on to. You heard many people calling tonight and saying, yes, we need to have an edifice, you know, hung it up with the name of the first Prime Minister of Dominica on it. Most people said the sports stadium. Most people said that. Some people said a statue. Some people said a few other things. Most people are thinking it's the stadium. It seems like a natural one to look at. So this may be something that the powers that be, the authority, the government.
We could have some grassroots names too. Bathurst State can now be called Patrick Stead, and Kingsfield can now be called Johnsville, you know, and Kingsfield Airport can now be called Patrick John Airport. There are several things, you know, that we can do. Because when you look at Kingsfield and Bathurst State, Patrick Stead and Johnsville, you know, the people, if the government doesn't want to do it, then the people on their own accord can begin to come up with identifications of name that they would like to pay homage to Patrick for.
But I think the government ought to do something. That's what I think. I think the government ought to do something.
When the Labour government probably retains office, if at all, that might happen, because the government that's in place is not a Labour government. I've said so repeatedly, and Mr. James didn't say that. He fell short of saying that. But the system in place right now is a power-sharing arrangement that has hijacked the Labour Party frame and using it for their own odds and ends, for expediency, for power. Labour Party is not in power. Well, yes, to an extent, but to the extent that the power is controlled by the status quo, by those people who are planted there to benefit the people who want them to be there. That's pretty much what is happening. So essentially, if Labour was in power, Patrick would have been better appreciated. So I don't expect the government right now to name anything after Patrick. I'll be greatly surprised if they do. And I would commend them as well for so doing. But alas, it is not Labour Party in power in Dominica. Simeon mentioned exactly what is taking place, and that's what has been in place for the past 20 years. Another young lady asked about the book. Yes, I'm writing a book. I was prepared to read a paragraph tonight. I don't think we have the time. But yes, we are writing a book which will encapsulate Patrick's story based on his interaction with me. Simeon should write as well. Other people should write. The more narratives we have is the better. You can have one story about Dominica, a full country with one story. No, man. We need many, 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 many more stories. Gebu has been doing his bit. Dr. Andre have been doing their bit. We need more writers to tell stories. I think actually Andre wrote a story or something relating to Patrick John. Alas, he didn't speak with Patrick. I do not know why. Probably he didn't get the interview because Desiree is very close and selective. See, maybe you could tell us. But I don't think he actually spoke with Patrick when he wrote about Patrick. And that's one of the problems Patrick has or had. Why would you write about me and not talk to me? So probably, I mean, the good doctor can defend that. So I know there is a book that makes reference to Patrick's life. I'm doing one. Hopefully comes out on his birthday the next time his birthday comes around. And Simeon and other people who can write should write, because we cannot depend on one Dominica story as the narrative. And the author of the Dominican story has been saying that other people can write. I wrote, let them write. So in defense of the good Dr. Honeychurch, he's asking people to write. So I'm writing. Maybe you should write to Mr. G and Mr. James.
Well, here's what I would say, because, you know, Alex, the thing is that you always have to try to wind up. Our biggest enemy is always the time.
I'm tired, man. I'm tired.
I know. That is what I'm saying. That's why we have to do that. Obviously, it's a great idea, and people who are writing is great. And I'm sure that we will give Dr. Irving Andre and Gabriel Christian and Dr. Eleanor Sonnychurch and everybody who has written and who is writing an opportunity to come out and explain what they've written. And if they have to defend something, give them an opportunity to defend it. But I think it is good that everybody writes. But I'm saying this, and Alex, I'm hoping that Dr. Andre and Gabriel and people like yourself and Dr. Honeychurch, your writer, Simeon, will be able to come on board at different times when we do this lecture series on this, all our leaders over time. I think this is a very important, it's going to be a very, very important series.
I think so.
The young people are going to learn a lot of things they just did not. You see how people are saying they learned so much about Patrick John over the last few days? They're going to learn a lot more about, who knows about Frank Barron as being the first chief minister. Do young people know anything about that? They don't know.
Well, he has a book, yeah? There's a book. There's an autobiography. There's a biography of Frank Barron.
On Frank
It's
Barron.
just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that I just find that, you see, and again, it has to do with our whole, I wouldn't even say our system of education. I would say our framework of educating ourselves. Because what do we expose ourselves to? You know?
We are more oral people, eh? We are more oral related.
Yes,
so people prefer to hear. So the writing is important, but what Sheridan is talking about in terms of actually presenting like discussions and what Mr. James also called for. So I think that is one of the things we need to do as well.
Well, Alex, we can speak of the Patrick John Foundation for History and Heritage, you know?
Yes.
Because the history part of it is to use that section of the Patrick John Foundation to continue to speak about not only the history of Patrick John, but the contemporary history of the 60s and the 70s, so that people growing up now will know. And another thing, Sheridan and the rest of the team, the book by Dr. Andre about Mr. Libla, the caption is The Struggle to Transform Dominica. Edward Oliver Libla, The Struggle to Transform Dominica. Because if you go back into the archives of the Dominica Welfare News or the Dominica Story or even all the books, the society that these people came from, a lot of our young people, like very much like the blacks in America, the young black people of America, they don't remember the time when they couldn't vote. They don't remember the time of the Ku Klux Klan and deep racism in the South. And today they embrace kinds of cultures that is defeatist of the Negro African heritage. Same thing for a lot of our young people in Dominica who are totally oblivious to the working and living conditions of their grandparents. It is very sad that a lot of people who have gone on to build and who have become professionals and living in wall house and castle comfort and they forget to tell their children where their grandparents came from, that they came from a society where they had to struggle to make a living, that they came from a class where people were basically segregated in the Dominican society. But we had the bourgeois and the Creole and those kind of things there. And if you were from certain parts out of town, you were called country bookie. And no matter how smart you were, you couldn't work in the bank. And no matter how intelligent you are, depending on who your parent was, you couldn't become a nurse, a teacher, or a policeman. And while we do not want to go back to that history, it is part of our history. And that is why today they cannot appreciate. That is why today they cannot appreciate the need to, as they say in Spanish, la lucha continua, to continue to fight and to just accept things as they are. So they are fearful. If they talk, they won't get a job. If they speak out, they will not get a scholarship. And if they criticize, they will not get a loan. And those kind of things there. And so they forget that. But that is what we have come to. The oppression of people because of the fact we have gone back to an era whereby unless you are part of the status quo, you cannot become anything. And that has to be dismantled. That is a paradigm that must be deconstructed. Because if we do not, the future generation that is coming will tend to think that they must live subservient to fear, that they must live hoping that they must live off the crumbs of the table, and there must be Lazaruses at the gates of the rich and the powerful, and they must be at the mercy of the politicians and the ruling class and the powerful class. If we do not stop that now, that is what we're going to revert to. Because too many of our people today are fearful of being, of becoming, of speaking, and of thinking out of fear of what they will go through. That has to be deconstructed for the future of this country.
It will take a little while, Simeon, but it can happen. And this idea of hypermendicancy is a tool of kleptocrats, oligarchs, and wannabe dictators. Any system that promotes people's dependency on the system, on the state, are people who have no good use and intention for people. They are kleptocrats, oligarchs, and wannabe dictators. And one of the things that we should note as we end here is that dictatorship in a country like Dominica, a small island developing state, cannot happen, cannot work. You may try it as hard as you wish. It will ricochet, it will boomerang and take care of itself. So that is one of the hope that I have based on the theories that I understand. It's going to be very difficult to install a dictator because people are going to have the last say. When a man hungry, he knows that he is hungry. When a woman hungry, she knows she's hungry. When you cannot feed your children, you know that. And there's going to become a time when people will have the final say. Sometimes we just a bit too impatient, but it's going to happen, partner. Hypermendicancy has been installed or attempts to install it, and that is the tool of kleptocrats, oligarchs, and wannabe dictators. I say wannabe because they cannot and will never be a dictator running Dominica as long as Dominica remains what it is. Because this fighting spirit of Dominicans is still alive and well. It hasn't gone anywhere. The people not ready yet. And that's
all right, Alex. I think this is about a note on which we can wind up. I just really want to thank all the folks who are still with us on Facebook, still with us on WhatsApp, still with us on the air and listening. I know one caller, a very prominent caller, called and said, hey, we need to give more time. We did, but I know no matter how much time you give, it's never enough, right? So what we do, we'll give it more time at another time, right? And so that is what we will do. So I just want to say, gentlemen, Alex, Simeon, Prime Minister James, Lambie, Sherwin, all our listeners from near and far, everybody on Facebook and on WhatsApp. I want to thank all of us for being here tonight and giving of ourselves and what we know and sharing, being that bridge with the other folks out there. He said, so many people are saying, I did not know that. I did not know that. So we're doing something that is good. Simeon, thank you for raising those things in the eulogy. I mean, this really has created an impact, and I think it will continue to have impact and it will continue to have legs. It's going to continue moving and growing. But let's just end on this note. I think the conversation was very nice, very pleasant, and we looked at all sides, all ideas contended. The callers had their say. Tonight, we were very thankful that we were able to get a little bit more time for the callers tonight, so they shouldn't hold us too badly in their esteem right now. We did make allow a few calls to come through. So, gentlemen, I want to say thank you, and it's just left for me to say good night to everybody. Good night, Simeon and Mr. James and Alex and Lambie and Sherwin and all our callers, everybody. Hope everyone here has a very pleasant night. Good night, guys.
Night. Happy Independence in advance.
Good night.
All right. Okay. All right. Nice.